I'm overselling.
How you doing? Yep, go for it.
Down the hallway? Okay. Is somebody gotta call him?
No, he's coming in.
You guys all good? Okay. All right. All right, so call the meeting to order. Start with roll call.
Okay, Mayor Manning.
Here.
Brenneman.
Here.
Hill.
Here.
Monahan.
Here.
Lanzer. Here. Nelson.
Here.
And Jones is absent with notice.
Do we have any additions or approval to motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Discussion? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright, so we're gonna hop over to new business and just kind of running through. If we don't have an agenda, we've got some agendas up there. If you kind of want an idea of what's going on tonight. Typically, how we run the budget meeting is we'll go through. Teresa's going to give us some high points on what our 2020 proposed revenue looks like, what's changed, what's different in there. We'll look for a motion to approve what she's got in there for proposed revenue. We'll do the same thing for proposed expenses. Typically, those expenses, the ones we're looking at in there, are pretty hardwired type expenses. I mean, things that the city needs to do, has to do, some of those kind of things that we know are coming up as expense items. Then we'll get into our cash report, talk a little bit about our sales revenue and our debt limit. Then after that point, we'll get down to the review of the updated city capital improvement plan. We talk about what are the major projects coming on the road, what does that look like. We kind of approve, looking through what are our major projects over the next 5 years. At that point, we go through all of our visitor and budget requests. So that's all of the outside entities that aren't necessarily housed right in the city, but are friends of the city, basically. So we start to go through all of those. We don't make motions on any of them until we've heard from all of them. We just work our way through, listen to everybody, jot our notes down, ask questions, all of that kind of thing. Then at the end is where we come up and we say, okay, now based on that, we're going to approve this. Based on that, we're going to approve this. And it starts to be motions after that. So for every group that's represented, I won't be able to have every person for every group come up and talk. But if you've got one or two representatives, we absolutely want to hear from you on those groups. So be thinking about that a little bit. And as we go, we just want to make sure we hear what we need to hear from every group. Sound all right? All right, that's the plan for tonight. With that, we'll move into new business. And we've got the review of the 2020 proposed revenues. Teresa.
Okay, so in your packet is what is our proposed revenues. These are anticipated revenues that we foresee coming to the city in 2020. I sit down with Karen, Craig, the other staff members. We go over, what's happened in the past, what we've seen come in. We look at what we're doing this year, and then we adjust it for, like I said, any known item that we know is going to happen. Either it's going to be less revenues or more revenues. We make those adjustments. So you have those sheets in your packet, and so I'm just going to go through them kind of briefly, kind of highlight some of the kind of major changes or the ones that we change or point out. Most, like I said, are an average of what has happened in the previous year. So we kind of get set amount of dollars from our county, set amount of dollars, from other revenue sources. So the biggest highlight in the revenues is, our biggest revenue source is our real estate taxes. And as you can see, we're expecting about 1.3 million this coming year in real estate taxes. And that is if we request the maximum allowed. And there is a formula with the county. We can only request a certain amount of dollars from the county. It's based off of what we requested last year, plus the current CPI, plus our growth rate. And what that figures out to is the maximum dollars we can request. If we request our maximum dollars, which I'm proposing we do, it actually in essence has lowered our mill levy once again to 6.6. So you know, we can still get the maximum dollars and we're still lowering our mill levy. So I think that's a win-win for the city all around, for the city and the citizens. Our next biggest revenue source is our sales tax penny, our first and second sales tax penny. We are, as you've seen from, you know, each month in the council meeting, we are running slightly higher than we did last year. Every year we seem to grow a little bit more and more, so we are projecting that to be a little bit higher for both those sources. Liquor license, video lottery fees, billboard rentals, those are basically based off of what contracts we have. You know, we only have a certain amount of liquor license, so, you know, those revenue dollars are set. You know, we have certain contracts with our billboards, certain contracts with our cell towers, all those dollars are set. So those are all based off of our contracts. The only really state grant that we anticipate getting right now is our mosquito grant that we get every year, so I did put some dollar in there. Hopefully, you know, if any other grants come along, we would definitely apply for them if they're feasible to the city, so we did put a little in there. There's a couple of pink highlighted items. These are new revenue sources. So you'll see down there, there's recreation fees, it's the first one. And this is based off our new recreation department. These are fees we anticipate to get. Nate was very instrumental in gathering those numbers. Certain camps we anticipate to hold, soccer, volleyball camps, starting maybe our own new flag football. You know, these are registration fees and whatnot. So this is our anticipated revenue if we start all those programs, according to this proposal. Another new item is supply reimbursement. I've worked with Jesse on this. This is from the chamber and HADF. You know, Jesse uses some of our paper, some of our toners, these are just small supplies that he uses there. They're reimbursing us a little bit for that. Any major mailings he does or anything major printing he does, you know, he does it out of their budget. But these are the small office supplies here. So we did add a line item for that. The 900 in rentals, this is, we implemented fees for park shelter rentals this year and for picnic table rentals. So this is money coming from that. So this is our new revenue from that. And then another one of the one we just passed, our street maintenance fee. We project 138,000 coming from that, which will be a major help to our budget this year. Helps. So we've added those in there too. So the general fund, about 2.6, almost 2.7 million in revenue we expect to get in. The third penny sales tax fund, once again, this is off of the sales tax that we get from our third penny, which is, you know, our restaurants, our bars, you know, our entertainments, pool. That too is running slightly higher than it has in previous years, so I did bump that up just slightly. The next fund is the sports complex fund. The money that goes into this will be determined tonight by you guys of what you want to fund for requests. We no longer have a pool fund. We no longer have a Mickelson Road fund since that is completed this year. We do have a Vandermark and 9th Street fund. We do not anticipate any revenue next year coming from that because basically the loans we receive for that project are coming this year. So that'll be a supplement to this year's budget. And then we don't anticipate getting any assessments on that until the following year because we won't get them to the county before they're cut off. So we'll have some assessments probably in 2021. Western Avenue project. Now we are applying for a loan for that. The sewer project going up Western Avenue for next year. We're applying for a loan and we're applying for a grant for that. If we get those revenue, that will come next year. So those are shown in the budget. Water fund, basically no major changes in that. As you know, metered sales, you know, what we charge on the water bills, you know, that's our biggest income of that. We always have a 2% increase every year according to ordinance, so that was figured into that. And then what we get from like sale of materials, you know, whether it be water meters or whatnot, or hookup fees, that all is dependent upon, you know, how many accounts we have, who moves in, who moves out, and whatnot. Sewer fund, basically the same thing, you know. The sewer charges are bumped up that 2% per ordinance, so that's probably the biggest increase in that fund as well. Besides that, those are, you know, what our proposed revenues are for running the city next year. Do you have any questions on any of them?
I got one.
Yep.
On the water fund metered sales, why is 18 listed an expense, I guess, right? That we're looking at?
This is the revenue we expect to get in from the water bills, basically, you know, what water usage is.
So 602 is an income?
Yeah, well, that's the fund, yep. That's our water fund, and these are the revenues, so this is what, the 582,000 is what we anticipate to come in from the water bills, from the sale of water.
Right, so, yeah, under metered sales, what he's looking at is, how come, why is the 2018 actual higher than what our 2020 and our 2019 budget are?
Drier year.
Yeah,
Drier year?
yeah,
More
you know,
water?
it depends on water usage, whether people are sprinkling, whether they're not, water, so. This year, you know, we projected, that second column is what we projected this year. We're running real close to what our projected is, maybe slightly higher, and that's why increased it a little bit above our projected for this year, 2019. Yeah, you know, actual sales may be higher, which would be great. You never know, but,
That makes sense.
Yep.
yeah, so.
Any other questions? All right, we have a motion to approve revenues for 2020.
Second.
Discussion. None, we'll vote. Nelson?
Yes.
Glanzer? Keel?
Yes.
Brennan?
Yes.
And Meyer.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move over to 2020 proposed expenses.
Okay, and this is pretty much the same thing, you know, we kind of go off of previous years, we look at this year, just, you know, adjust it for any changes, known changes we have coming in, but, you know, these expenses are pretty much what we foresee as the operating and maintenance budget for the city. We need to pay these out in order to run the city. I didn't do much adjustment with any of the council or mayor pay. Brittany, for your sake, that contingency line item there, we always put some money in that. What that is, we're allowed to put actually 5% of our expenses into this, which is about 100,000. We only put 50. It helps cover minor shortfalls in the budget. So at the end of this year, if we've got an account that's running a little bit short, you know, we can transfer some money from the contingency over to that fund. So just to let you know. Elections, I put in enough expense in there to cover our annual election. Hopefully we'll have an election, we'll see. The finance office is pretty much, you know, the expenses needed to run this office here, you know, our offices. I did bump up all salaries slightly in every department, just figuring pay increases. The cost of living is 2.8 this year, so you'll see every department has a, you know, slight increase in salaries there. Finance office, really, the only kind of bigger bumps are, and they're not even real big bumps, we did bump up the attorney fees a little bit. We're running higher this year. We've had some court action, some legal action, so we've utilized our attorney more, so I bumped that up some. And then IT service, I did bump that up also some. We've kind of, this year we've done, you know, we switched out our server, we've had a couple computers go down. Hopefully we don't expense that much out next year, but, you know, I want to be prepared for it in case we have any issues with any of our IT services. Government buildings, did not make any major changes in that, just minor adjustments there in government buildings. Siren, this fund is for our weather sirens. We just always plug in about $1,000 there. You never know if they're going to, one's going to go down or some, you know, board needs replacing or whatnot. So we do want to have something in their budget in case we do have to do some repairs or maintenance on them. The police administration, this is our police service with Minnehaha County. The first one is our contracted hours. This is our nights and weekends. We have, you know, close to 100 hours that we contract with them. That's the rate of the contract, so that number's set. And then the next line item, the cops grant, that's our daytime deputy. And what we do is Officer Ryan, who's here now, basically we pay his salary, and so that's what I estimate as far as having to pay out. You'll notice previous years it was higher. But like I said, it all goes by their salary. We had Tyrone here, he was a seasoned veteran, and so he had a pretty high salary rate, so that's why it's higher there. Now the fire department, so this encompasses the Humboldt ambulance and our fire department. What you give out to those entities will be determined tonight. The only number I plugged in there is that by contract, we're required to pay $80,000 to help fund their building. So we do have a contract for that. That has to be in budget, so that's why you see that $80,000 there. Streets and highways, like I said, pretty much, like I said, an estimate. Craig always works real closely with me. He gets the anticipated numbers for our slurry seal, our crack sealing, our patch, gravel. Mag water, we did figure 2 applications in there because we've done that the last couple of years, so we just figured it in right away. 2 applications of mag water in there, so I'll point that out to you. Mosquito control, we did bump that up. We've got chemical costs are increasing. We have more area to go around, and we anticipate we're going to need a new sprayer next year, so those amounts are in there. And then under other, I did put, we have a cost going out, so with the new street maintenance, every piece of property gets that tax, including city. We'll have to pay out on our city property, so that it's an expense there, so that'll be a new expense item that we'll have to pay our share of the street maintenance as well. Transit, this is our bus we have. Now, a little over a year ago, we consolidated with ICAP. They are now running the system. We basically just pay management fees to them. We don't get any of the fares, any of the revenue, but we don't also pay any of the expenses for the bus either. We just pay out this management fee to ICAP now, so that's $9,300. Animal control, this is the money that we pay out to Sioux Falls Humane Society to do our animal control services. Swimming pool, there's not much changes there. Repairs and maintenance, we did bump up some. We know we have to do a little bit of plumbing work next year, plus we plan on painting the inside of the pool, the actual pool itself next year. So we have a paint expense in there, and then the inside of the building too. So we added some more money for that. Recreation program, this is probably the biggest changes because you can see we have a lot of new pink line items there. Once again, this is working with Nate.
Can we stop for a minute?
Oh,
Tracy,
sure.
Go back before
Yep.
we start. Under streets, last year we budgeted $43,000 for concrete repair. This year we budgeted $3,000.
Well, that 43,000. So this year you guys added to the budget 40,000 to repair some of Mickelson sidewalk, that bike path along Mickelson. We got a lot of cracks in there.
Is that what that 40 was for
Yep,
Mickelson sidewalk?
yep. So the normal is about 3,000. Like I said, if we put that 40,000 in there, we plan to expense that out. It won't do all of it, so one of your considerations is to put out more money to kind of finish that up. But that's why that one's higher.
Thanks.
One more quick one if I could. Have you laid the second layer of mag? Do you think it's necessary?
I will make a decision here next month, or within the next month.
Okay. I mean, because I'm just thinking if the year we've had and seeing that it's held up pretty good, to this point. Now, that could change at the drop of a hat come October. But with that, that's about somewhere in the neighborhood of $15,000, right?
10 to 15, yeah.
Yeah. I'm the one that's always the advocate on this, and I'm just saying, Craig, if you feel, which I don't see right now today, a reason to do that second application of MAG, doesn't mean it won't happen next year, but I would entertain. Are we able to roll that back
Goes back into
into?
general.
We would be.
So whatever money we don't put a second layer,
Right.
whatever money we don't expense this year will go back into the general fund. It just stays in our reserves,
Okay.
basically.
All right. Just kind of keeping that in mind. Thank you, Craig.
On that Mag water note, we're gonna have about 4,000 less feet gravel roads in 2020 than we do currently.
True.
Yeah, so-
Yeah, I figured, I've got it all on paper here, in the past, I've never figured, like 4th Street, Napa, we've always shot them. Our number will probably come in less as long as the price doesn't go way up, but, so yeah, if I subtracted Mickelson and Vandermark. But then also last year, I didn't figure some of them in because I knew they're gonna be under construction, so I didn't have them in last year. That's why the number's just slightly different.
Like I said, the recreation program, there's quite a few additions to this one. Once again, it's working with Nate. These would be expenses for any added programs, if we had soccer, flag football, any camps, you know, anything of those sorts. So there's, you know, the salary for the director is in here, and it is, you know, bumped up to a full-time if we keep the program. The other, like rec department program staff, that second one, that's for people to help out with camps. They're not, you know, full-time salary or part-time salary people with the city. Those are people that we'd employ to help out once in a while with camps. Rentals, that would be if we would have a basketball camp or whatnot, we would need to rent the school's facilities. Supplies, you know, those are supplies and materials for any of these programs. Travel and training's in there. Promotion, this is banners, brochures, the website, those new things we've implemented. Utilities is just the cell phone, and then other is just some miscellaneous expense that we budgeted for. So all those items are new that we put into this program. The only other changes I really made, and these are recommendations from Laura for the actual park rec program, the summer program we have in the park. I did bump up salaries for them because I don't feel we're gonna be able to hire kids for $7 an hour anymore, so, and then I bumped up her salary a little bit, which is not a major bump up. And then park rec supplies too, she said that she's gonna need a bigger budget because we have more kids coming in. So I did bump that almost double it to 2,000, so made those adjustments off of her recommendations. Senior citizen expense, that'll be determined tonight, what you'll get to that entity. Parks, once again, no big changes. Machine and equipment is bumped up some. Craig's noted we will need a new ball field drag. We had to take out some playground equipment, our insurance made us, so we budgeted in some money to have replace some of that, and we're gonna need some more park picnic tables too. So we did bump up machine equipment to help replace some of that stuff. Bike and rec trail, like I said, will be determined from the council tonight. The libraries, that $3,600, that's what is the city needs to pay per contract for having the library there in the senior citizen center. We pay that out to happen. We pay that out actually to the senior center for rental of that space there. The downtown committee will be determined tonight. Planning and zoning, no major changes there. Professional services, you'll know, this is our engineering, this is our force count for engineering. So the miscellaneous engineering they do to review plats, to make maps for it. We budgeted $60,000 this year. We're probably not gonna expense that out. Mitch thought we could drop that down, so we dropped that amount down. And then I did add an other under here for some, I put code enforcement expense. We've never really had in the past where we've had to go abate some properties, but we have some expenses this year, and we may possibly have some next year. So I did put some funds in there for that expense. Okay. Promotions, to be determined by the council. You can, you know, monies that you dispense to the Jamboree, the Hometown Christmas could come out of this, so that can be determined tonight for you. And then debt service in the general account. These are all our 2020 payments for loans we have out there. And you'll notice the two last ones is the new loan we'll be paying for the Vandermark and 9th Street project. So that's, the loan payment is figured in there as well. So in expenses out of our general, which is our main operating, we got about 2.1 million that will be coming out next year. Our third penny tax, this is what we usually use this money. Like I said, promotions can be paid out of this, so we usually fund the chamber and HADF out of this fund. So that, what expense goes into here will be determined by the council tonight as well. Same thing for the sports complex fund. We have no pool fund anymore, no Mickelson Road fund anymore. The expenses that are going to be paid out for the Vandermark 9th Street project, these will mainly be for 9th Street. We will be able to probably start a portion of that if approved by the council this year, but we will have some expense next year. It won't all get done, so we did figure an amount in there for expensing. Same thing for sewer up along Western. If we get our grants and we decide to do that project, these will be the expenses that the engineer anticipates for that project. Water fund, pretty much, probably one of the biggest changes in there, these once again are off estimates, is under supplies and materials. We bumped that up quite a bit. It went from 20,000 we anticipate this year to 55,000, and that is mainly for replacement of water meters. We have the new water meter system. The water meters we have in, we need to replace out, and we're figuring probably about a 5 or 6 year program. We're gonna have to replace about 200 meters a year to stay on task with that. So each year we'll have to budget this till we get them all replaced. Bringing the purchase of MCWC water, we don't produce our own water, we purchase it from rural water, Minnehaha County Water, so this is what we have to pay for the water we disperse to our customers, so. All the rest, administration in general, is pretty much, no major changes there. Water fund, about 450,000 is what we plan to disperse out of that fund. And kind of, you keep pointing this out too pretty, but I just want to make sure you said, the water fund and the sewer fund, now we can't pay for street maintenance out of that fund or whatever. The only thing we can pay out of those two funds are just for those expenses. So the only thing we can use revenue from the water accounts is for fixing our water lines, for that system. Same thing with the sewer, so that's why they're separate from the general.
Just to refresh my memory, a portion of that also can go towards equipment utilized for that.
If we use it in the water
machine
department.
equipment, we got
Yep.
$43,000 in there in 2019.
Yep.
That was put about a third or quarter of the payloader.
Yep. Yeah, so like the payloader, dump truck, or if we use it in those departments' equipment, yeah, we can expense part of it for it too, so, yeah. And as long as you can justify it's being used for those funds. Sewer fund. We have the debt service, or the loans we anticipate to pay out. Once again, you'll see at the bottom, we have one new loan, Western Avenue. If we do get funds for that, we will be having to make a payment on that. So I'm just anticipating that debt service to come up next year. And then all the rest are pretty much the same. Repairs and maintenance is bumped up some. Craig has indicated we need to do some work on some of in the sewer, some of our motors, some of our impellers, some bar screen maintenance in our lift station, so we do need to do some maintenance and repairs in those, so that was bumped up some. So those are the anticipated expenses during the city. Sure. Any more questions on them?
No questions? I do have a motion to approve proposed expenses.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Monahan?
Yeah.
Brenneman?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes.
Lanford?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Moving to cash report, sales tax revenue, and the debt.
Okay, I wanted to throw this in your packet just for your reference. You do get the cash report and the sales tax revenue report. Every month we put it in your Dropbox so you know where the city's sitting. So for reference, right now our cash report is showing a total of all the funds we have in reserves about 2.6 million. So we're in good standing with our cash. There are some restricted money there that we can't disperse out. Those are money that we either have in escrow accounts or they're used to back a CD or whatnot. We can't use those funds for anything, but like I said, you kind of get this every month, know where we're sitting. Same way with the sales tax report. I just wanted in there to show, we are slightly ahead. Every year we have been gaining some on those. Hopefully we continue, shop local, so get that to continue to increase. The biggest thing I kind of just wanted to point out, I did put a copy of our debt service in there, so I wanted you to look at this. Right now, the top portion of it shows how much debt, what we have out for loans and what our loan payments are presently. Currently, we are, we're allowed so much debt capacity, and that's based off of our assessed valuation. The state lets you have so much debt capacity. But right now, we are running about 34% of the debt capacity allowed. When we add those 2 new loans on next year, we are gonna be at almost 60% of our debt capacity, so just want you to be aware of that too. The mayor says when we go through the CIP, we have more projects out there, so I just want to point that out so you guys are keeping an eye on that.
Can we go back for a minute, Teresa?
Yep,
To the cash report?
yep.
Get to it. I don't see, we've been budgeting money for, I believe that's clay sewer pipe on 6th and 1
Mm-hmm,
for, I don't know how many years now,
yeah.
and I don't see a line item for that.
So it's in our general, but I do have I keep track of a separate spreadsheet that shows what our commitments are. And if you notice, when I gave you this estimate of our balances, I do have that figured in there that shows what our commitment funds are and then how much we have, 90,000 committed for the 6th and Munn Street project that you guys committed out of general, 75 out of water, and 25 out of sewer. So it's showing up on a cash report as just under the general fund, but I do have it segregated off as showing what our commitments are.
So is that reflected in the current general fund balance?
Yes,
Should it be?
I could take it out of there and put it
Well,
under
you
the
know what I'm
restricted,
saying,
yeah.
if you look at the general fund and it's $590,000, but $120,000 of it's earmarked, you really don't, in my mind, you really don't have 590 in your general, you got 4 and change.
Right,
So if there's something in the general fund, I think it should be earmarked and pulled out of the balance.
and I can show that separate on the cash report if that's easier for you guys
Well, I
to see.
think it's misleading.
I show it in my report, but yeah, you're right, it would be easier for you guys to see right off the
Because
bat.
if nobody knows we've been earmarking that money to replace clay sewer pipe, and you just look at the general balance in the general,
Yep.
I think you got more money than you
What's
Well,
that?
that's easy
again,
enough.
Teresa?
What?
What's that amount?
The total amount, we have 90,000 earmarked out of the general, 75 out of the water, and 25 out of sewer, so.
And it doesn't show up in the water or sewer either, does it? Is earmarked?
Well, it shows under their fund, yeah. So basically, I can pull it out of the fund, and I can show it
Water and sewer,
separate.
but not necessarily in the general.
I just don't
So
want.
that's easy enough to show. You're
I just
right.
don't want, because I didn't even see it on capital improvements, is it?
I think it's a future one, yeah. It's not in our 5-year plan, but yeah. No, I can redo the cash sheet to show
All
that.
I'm saying is there's gonna come a day when there's not anybody sitting here that knows that money was parked.
Right. Well,
I hope there's a day when nobody's sitting here that knows that money was parked.
You didn't need it.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
So then you know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, because right now it's just lumped into,
Yeah.
whether it be the general fund or the water fund, so, yeah, I can take that out, that's easy enough to show, so. I'll start
What was that total again, Teresa?
190,000,
190?
yeah. And that's the only amounts we have committed right now. We used to have money committed to the fire department for equipment replacement, but we have dispersed all of that at the present time, so. but-
That was 190, not all of that was from the general.
No,
so that was-
no, 90,000 was from the general, 75 was from the water, and 25 was from the sewer. So no, I'll make that change going forward, because that's, yeah.
So really, by the looks of this, estimate of fund balances as of 12/31/2019, you have, rule of thumb, 3 months of operating expenses in reserve, $532,000. So without that,
That's figured in there, that 90,000 is out of there.
where's it at?
About 3 line items above. Minus committed funds, 6 a month,
Oh,
90,000. So it is shown on here,
It is.
just, it's not shown on the
Okay.
cash, which I can show, yeah.
Sure. That's a lot of numbers for me to look at, I see it now.
Yeah, it's a big spreadsheet. And yeah, so this estimated fund balance, basically it shows what I anticipate to have in our reserves in each one of the funds at the end of the year. As Mark pointed out, rule of thumb that you don't want to, you want to at least have 3 months of operating expense and at least the general, the water and the sewer to keep the city going. So, you don't want to fall below that. And we're, above that, especially our general water fund are looking pretty good. The sewer fund's a little bit low, so we did have to pay some of that money out to Nicholson Road, but otherwise, all funds we are above that market line, so. Any questions?
All right, anything else on cash report, sales tax revenue, or debt limit?
Just,
Would you like a motion on that section as well, Teresa?
I don't know if we need a motion. I mean, those are just the record. It is what it is. I just wanted to make sure you guys are all seeing it and we're aware of it. We don't need to prove it, like I said, it is what it is.
All right, with that, we'll move on to the review of the updated CIP, the capital improvement plan. And talk through some of those items down there.
So this is our CIP, and our engineers, basically present this to us. This kind of shows what our anticipated projects are for the city. We know, kind of gives us a little roadmap of, we know this is coming up, we better start preparing for it, looking for it. We know this project is going to need to be done at this certain time. This project's going to be done at that certain time. We review it every year at budget time, just so it changes. I mean, this is, like I said, what we anticipate, but plans change. We may have a new development come in that may push, one project to the forefront sooner than we anticipated. It might push another project back. Something might happen with a water line fall apart that you may, like I said, you need to adjust those projects. But this is what we foresee as the projects on the horizon right now. Mitch just worked on this last week and got it to me about 3 o'clock on Friday, so threw it in the packet. But basically, it lays out, our anticipated projects for the next 5 years. Kind of shows what year we plan to have those expenses, what the expenses will be, kind of put in order of, like I said, by year of what we see coming up. You'll notice on the bottom, there's also a list of future projects. We don't see those as immediate in the next 5 years, but we do know they're looming out there. At some point, we will need to do them. So, I guess for next year, for 2020, we will have a portion of 9th Street that we will be paying out, so that will be a project. If we do the sewer extension along Western, that'll be a project. He has talked a little bit about, you'll see a new one in there, extension of a water main to Turtle Creek, So this is for extending a water line down Highway 38. This would loop Sam Asson's development. It would provide a water loop for that. We haven't talked about it much. We haven't committed to the project. If we decide to do it next year, we will have to figure out a funding source for it, and then, go from there. We'll do a supplemental appropriation. So I didn't plan for any of this because we haven't even talked about this yet. It's just something that has come up, Mitch has suggested here recently. This Root and Opal Lane intersection improvement, it is on your consideration from the city. That intersection's kind of fallen apart, so we would like to do something with this year. So it is a consideration. You can add it to the budget if you want to, but those two items are not presently in the budget. We'll talk about them and add them if we need to. You do know we've got a wastewater treatment plant that's looming. 2025, we are looking at doing some Western Avenue improvements, probably a 3-lane up to Mickelson at least, when they do the interstate bridge. So, those are kind of bigger projects we have coming up. So he hasn't completely finished it. Like I said, he got what he could over to me. We will be going through this in more detail probably in the next month or so, but I wanted you guys kind of take a look at it and be aware of it here at budget time of what we have projects looming out there. Any questions?
I got a question, Teresa. On the 5-year capital plan,
Yep.
so the first project, 9th and Highway 38,
Mm-hmm,
2019 expenditure and 2020 expenditure.
mm-hmm.
So I assume that totals about 644.
Yep.
The second one, sewer extension, $60,000 this year, 1.255 in 2020. Highway 38, water main extension to Turtle Creek, 63,000 this year, 775,000 the next year. So if all these numbers are right, wastewater treatment and southeast sewer extension, number 5, 30,000 this year, 900,000 in 2020.
Those last 4 projects, those lower numbers you see this year, those are mainly to cover engineering costs for doing plans for them, if we decide to move forward with them.
Well, here's what I'm getting at. It looks like next year, 5-year capital plan involves roughly $3 million worth of debt service that we don't currently have. So forget about this year, because we're looking pretty good. How do we pull that off next year? I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
we're either, the revenue's gotta come in like we got a money tree, or some of this stuff's not getting done.
And that's probably
Am I looking at
what'll
it right?
happen, yep, oh, you're definitely looking at it right. Yes, we got, like I said, I wanted to throw this in there, because we got some big projects.
Am I wrong? Is
out
that not $3 million?
there. Yep. I got it in here, we got.
$3,540,900.
So the 9th and Vandermark one, we have that loan already figured in our debt service that I showed you, because that came this year. But yeah, with the western sewer extension, and if we do that water loop, you know,
It'd be
to Turtle Creek.
$2.4 million more than we're currently looking at.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and that 900,000 for the treatment plant is probably just to purchase land, mainly. What we're looking at. It's not the plant itself, yeah. So,
How much time we got, Fred? You're up.
Depends on how many letters I wanna get from DNR, EPA.
yeah, it's-
We're
Maybe we'll
pushing
move
the
it out
limits, I
there.
mean, it's gonna get to a point where when we get so full, we can't handle it, basically, the road's gonna have to stop until we get it taken care of, so.
All right, sorry to interrupt you.
Is that what our neighboring communities have done? They just stop growth?
Some of them, and they pretty much, if your facility can't take it, I mean, like I said, you'll be discharging out of compliance, and
Or they discharge out of compliance until the state
eventually the
steps in and helps?
they'll step in, basically force you to do something.
Project number 2 doesn't include revenue for possible lift funds that could come in for something like that, is that correct?
Sure, yeah, these are, just basic expenses. If you, look onto the next pages, they do kind of have a breakdown of, the actual dollar expense and then where possible funding come from, but yeah. So, some of these could be, grant funds, on top of loan funds, this doesn't show any funding source, it just kind of gives you an idea of, what projects are gonna need to be done at some point. It doesn't probably need to be in this order either, but at some point need to be done, and what expense you're looking at for it.
Right. And that's where I appreciate, I want to point those things out, because project number 2, we're not gonna do unless we get those funds.
Right.
So that's not gonna be borrowed money. Project number 1, we've already borrowed that money, and that's already figured into our debt service. And the other ones, we make decisions as we go. It'd be a good year in 2020 if we actually secure land for our wastewater treatment plant and we're able to spend that money. Because it's high on our priority list to find that land and spend it. So, while if you look at borrowing all those funds, it could be looming, the reality is that's not what it's gonna be.
This gives you an idea of the projects out there and what expenses, so. Okay.
All right, anything else on CIP? All right, we're gonna move on to visitors and budget requests. Let's see if I got these in order. Do you have a good order for us, Teresa, or should I?
I just put them on there, there's no rhyme or reason to it, so you can do it if you want.
Let's take a look. All right, I'm gonna go off of this sheet right here, so if you can back it, we're on this one. We're just gonna run down the list here. So it starts with, I'll just give you quite a quick overview of the next three up. It's downtown Hartford, Hartford area sports and rec, and then Hartford area bike and rec, couple of ambulance after that. So, first one up, downtown Hartford.
Good evening.
Hello.
Ricky Kunzweiler, I'm the president of Downtown Hartford, Inc., and Jesse Pondrick is our advisor to this committee. We sent you the packet based on a request of asking for $10,000. So and if you have questions for us, or if you want me just to, we've been to the last 3 meetings, so I think you guys
You
kind
can
of
hit
all
the high
know.
points, that'd be just fine. Yep.
Okay, so we based our organization off the state of Maine, which is a national organization, and it is redeveloping main streets and small communities is what it does. And so design, organization, promotion, and economic structure. And we've met with the Hartford Economic Development Council already, just discussed how we would like to partner with them, and then in future to meet with the chamber and partner with them on marketing the downtown area. And basically what we've done is we've got our organization together, and what we plan on doing is having town hall meetings with the community, just to get ideas from them. So with that said, our budget is there if you have questions.
Right now, if I'm looking at this right, it's your end of year balance after you do your lighting project and everything like that is estimated to be at $0.
Correct, other than we do have $265 that we need to,
Yep.
yeah. That's
Okay.
it.
Perfect. All right, any questions? All right, anything else?
No, just give you our total income that we are estimating is $30,000, and then our total expenses would be 30. And those are all broke down for you, just on some of the things that we'll be looking at to hopefully drive revenue, and then the expenses that go along with that.
All right, that looks good.
All right,
Good job on the
thank
new,
you.
on the new group getting going again. All right, next up. Go ahead, here's your question.
You can ask questions, absolutely. We just won't.
Allocate money.
Yeah, I just got a question. Are all the downtown businesses active with your commission here, your committee?
No, they aren't. What we have done is we've sent letters to all of them, and then Jesse and I will be visiting each one of them in the next few weeks to ask them for their support. And that might mean either money, or it might mean just helping us with projects. So we're asking for money, but that's individual.
Good. And next up is Hartford area sports and rec. Matt?
I'm Matt Evans, chairperson for Hartford Area Sports and Rec, along with Nate Ulander, who's our Parks and Rec director. We're here to request funds to complete the next phase of development out at Swenson Park, which would include concession restroom building and sidewalks. Currently, we have the fields and softball diamonds being used at least 5 nights a week. We've hosted approximately 70 just games this year. out at the fields, and we're looking to continue the growth that you have helped us, I guess, start here in the past couple of years. So our original request is $500,000. That is based off of Stockwell Engineering's estimate of $655,000. We already have 120, or I think it's upwards of 139,000 set aside for the project. It's already in our account. We're also working towards starting a Chase the Ace type fundraiser to help offset the funds as we move forward for this project. We also believe that that estimate is fairly high, and that when it comes down to it, we would the actual cost would be much lower. We actually have one local contractor who's has put together a detailed estimate for us that if the council would allow us to use the insulated concrete forms, that it would be closer to between $200,000 and $250,000 to complete the project if we were able to complete it in that manner.
Versus 655 or?
Yeah, it was the 655, I'm just curious, maybe this will answer Mark's question, is that for the building and the concrete, basically?
Yeah, so the 655 includes the building, the concrete, also some landscaping for irrigation. It also includes the building, the design fees and the bid documents that would be included in that Stockwell would need to put together.
All right, but the alternative that you're talking about would reduce the total project by how much?
Based on that, close to 400,000. So that would be on the far low end as far as what we have is what someone's put together, but we think anywhere from there in between, but we think the 655 is very high, high estimate.
I think the general concept of thought in the community is $655,000 for the building, but it's not just the building.
No.
There's a lot of concrete leading up to that, which would lead to about $150,000 worth of concrete. Some design and engineering fees are in there as well. Structure itself of around $400,000, roughly $300 a square foot, I think is the number that the engineers use when estimating the structure of this nature, utilizing cement masonry unit, common.
Right.
Similar design to what we currently have in our parks, Turtle Park, Pearl Creek Park, and the city park.
A lot of that's going to depend on if we issue a project, we send it out for bids, what those bids are gonna come back at, right?
Correct. Yep.
Especially if local contractors get involved and they decide, hey, we wanna make sure this thing comes in under,
Right.
under a certain amount, or wanna help out with something like that. Also, something like this, as we're going through our budget process, I just wanna point out too, because I'm glad you're bringing it up and I'm glad you're an advocate for it, because I think that we need to start turning our attention toward what needs to happen up there to make that next step up at the sports complex. That wouldn't necessarily mean, as we get to the allocating funds, even if this council is completely on board for 500,000, it doesn't mean 500,000 is gonna get moved over to Hartford area sports and rec. It would mean it would get moved or bumped up in a CIP, because it would actually be, it ended up being a city project. We would be the ones writing the checks for it, signing off on the engineering and doing some of those kind of things. But I want to clear that up a little bit for the crowd and for everybody to know, like, most likely that's how that would work as we're going through this. Keep it going. Any other things you want to touch on that?
No, I think, as this community grows with the new development in the Turtle Creek area, the number of kids that we have involved in youth sports. Not just kids, I mean, we have our church league using, you know, the diamonds out there all summer long. So the more, there's gonna be a bigger interest in, and we're gonna have bigger numbers wanting to use those fields and facilities. Right now with just 2 porta potties out there and 5 nights a week use, I think that's, you know, it's getting to be where it's pushing it. You know, I think some of these girls that are here that have, you know, so nicely shown up to, you know, for their support when they're out there on a, you know, a nightly basis at practice, trying to use those facilities gets a little, it's a little hard, I guess. But I think this is just the next step in what we've started out there, and it just helps build the community, builds Hartford's status in the local community as people from other communities come to play games here. You know, they see, hey, look at what they're doing here in Hartford. We want to come back to play tournaments here. Other people also, if they're, you know, looking to move into one of these local communities, that's just one more thing for our community.
I think another thing to hit on is accessibility. I know many people, they have the Jamboree softball tournament. Hartford area softball did a great job with that. I was out there on the Saturday. And the biggest thing was I got a lot of great comments on the fields, but it's just that next step. You know, my grandma is going to struggle walking out there in the grass. My, you know, yeah, etc. So those types of situations. So I think accessibility is also a big key when you think about, you know, opening it up to all crowds.
I would agree, especially in a year like this where it was wet out there and it was really difficult. I mean, we made the, I know what you mean. I try to utilize this concession stand that's up there. It's difficult. It's one thing to sit here and say, you're just walking through grass, but it's another thing to try to bring coolers up there. I don't know how many 100 feet all the way up and back and forth, and then drive on the grass and get it up to a little tin shack that you're going to use as a concession stand. I think, in my opinion, we can start turning our attention toward making some improvements like that. Anything else, or anybody else that would like to speak on that?
All these children's softball players aren't here to support downtown Hartford.
Like so.
Hartford area sports and rec, get out your orange shirts now.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Jerry, before we go on,
Yeah.
so Teresa, going way back, did I see that we still have Jardines money tied up in escrow? Did I see that line up? I thought all that was released.
It will be released now the project's done. We can't release it until the project's done, but it will be this year.
Oh,
We're gonna
so
put
that's
that money
that's
there.
not the same money that was escrow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That just, when I seen it, I just jogged my memory and I thought, man, I thought we released all that money.
No,
That's for the current.
yeah, that'll be this year, yeah.
All right.
So,
Sorry.
okay.
All right, Troy, I believe you're up.
Who's up?
Good evening, Troy Larson with the Hartford Area Bike and Rec Trails Committee. And I first want to start with some thank yous. Thank you to the current as well as past councils for your strong support. What an amazing asset the trails are to the community and all who use them. They get used all the time, including winter. I'm just shocked. And Mark, you were a big leader early on, so thanks for your past involvement. Scott comes to the meetings, thank you. Jesse comes to the meetings. Nate most recently has come to the meetings and is helping us with the brochure, so thank you to Nate and Jesse. Craig, thank you to you, Terry, and the entire team for how well you maintain the trails. Thank you to Teresa for the past help she has given us with the grants, as well as the future help she will give us. Karen, I feel I should thank you for something. Thank you for using them. She writes a check. There you go.
Actually, you write the check.
So, again, thank you to everyone. We have 4 phases completed, and the 5th phase that we are recommending is along Turtle Creek between Fader and Maine. It's a property owned by the city, and we are calling that phase 5 of the trails. Every phase we've had so far, there's been a city cost share. So working with Teresa, what we did is we threw out the very first one because that was so long ago that numbers really weren't relevant to what we're currently doing. We also threw out the last one because that took so long. You may recall that's the Mike Franken Trail, and we had multiple issues with the wetlands, and it kept going back and forth and just added a lot more cost, so we didn't feel that was reflective. So all we did is took the middle 2 phases as to what the city's cost share was and averaged those two. And it was 43,000 and change. I don't have the exact number, but you have it in your packet. And so we are respectfully requesting that 43,000 and change in the event we are successful securing a grant. If we're not successful, then that's money that you would have to decide what you want to do with. Questions?
I have a question, Troy. You know, there's always, not always, but there's been talk about which is phase 5, and whether it's from Fighter to Main, or whether it's to get up to the sports complex, or how do you get there, and yada, yada, yada. But have you guys, and I understand the 43,672 or 762 would be the city's portion of, I believe, an 80/20 grant.
That's what we're figuring.
But I'm just curious if, do you guys have an estimate for just flat out engineering that trail?
Not yet. We do have a very general one that was done like 4 or 5 years ago, but you appropriated $10,000 last year for the Bike and Rec Trails Committee. We plan to use a small portion of that, it won't take $10,000, to get an updated estimate. So, no, the
Yeah,
answer.
but you're talking about an estimate, and if the council decides that is truly phase 5, I mean, I think right now, I'd be curious if we shouldn't just budget the money to engineer and
Oh,
put it
I
on,
see what you're
and put it
saying.
on the shelf.
I see what you're saying.
Because engineering seems to be going up with the price of everything else.
Hopefully, sooner or later, we will be successful in securing those funds. So I understand your logic, and we certainly do that at Lewis and Clark with our water project, is we put projects on the shelf so they're ready to go, and that would be an option for the city to consider. Thank you. Other questions? Thank you.
I know somewhere in here, and I can't remember where, and I remember us kind of steering you this direction as far as from Fighter to Main. But somewhere in here, I saw that there was plans from Main to 38. Correction, yeah, from Main to 38. Does it? I mean, you guys catch that at all? I mean, it's bedded so deep in here, I can't find it right now. But it wasn't a CIP.
You mean Main to
Along
Western?
along Turtle Creek,
From Main to Western.
from Main to Western. I'm sorry, yeah.
I
from
think
Main to
that's the
Western.
next phase. It's shown in our master plan, I think. Their
Is that what it was?
master plan, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I mean, the connectivity of that is really cool. I mean, I remember talking about that, that's why, of course, I missed the last meeting, sorry.
We won't hold that against you. To Mr. Monahan's point, we did consider whether we should recommend to you the next phase being up to the sports complex. We as a committee felt that this particular stretch of trail along Turtle Creek would be what we call low-hanging fruit. It's just an easy project to dig into, and then beyond that could be Main to Western, it could be sports complex. We certainly support a trail in the future at the sports complex, and I think everyone does. But we were asked to make a recommendation. That's our recommendation. If the council wants to instead prioritize trail to the sports complex, we will support you 100%. But you asked for our opinion, and we gave it to you.
Right. Yep.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, folks.
Next up, we got Humboldt Ambulance.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm John Garden, representing Humboldt Ambulance tonight. We're asking you for the same amount we did last year, $15,000. Everything's running, I guess, the same as it has, but as far as paid help and volunteer help, we've run 7 days a week with paid, and Saturday night, Saturday night it's paid 24 hours. So, and then we volunteer from 6 to 6 in the evenings. Paramedics are on, like I said, the other part of the time, the other paid time, so. We run 274 calls last year. 168 of them were in Hartford. They're in the Hartford area, you know. So, I mean, just to staff the ambulance so you have an idea. I mean, we put about 5,300 hours in just making it go. So it's not an easy task, but it's working. So I don't know. I think it's the best alternative we have at this point. So I'd appreciate your supporting it.
Any questions for John? How many years, do you know how many years in a row you've had 15,000? Was it just last year and this
Is it
year?
three, Teresa?
It's about 3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah, we were at 12.
You were 12 for a while, and you jumped up to 15 maybe about, 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
3 years ago.
I say about the last 3 years for sure, they've been 15.
We're in the process of replacing ambulance next year, so let's get to where we gotta do it, so. We'll take more if you have more. We want at least that much. Do you guys have any questions for me? Okay. Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Hartford Area Fire and Rescue. After that, it's the Senior Center, then Jamboree Day, and then Hometown Christmas. So. James, I think you got this one, right? Yeah. By the way, thank you. Fire and Rescue, I know you guys have a huge weekend. Busy week. Busy weekend. All kinds of things going on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm representing, I am Brian tonight. So, and I think Brian's kind of talked about this ahead of time already, but right now we are facing about 14% more calls than we've had last year. Our city call volume is about 40% of that. I think with that 14% increase, we're just shy of 300 calls for the year. Not quite sure. Last time I heard we were facing somewhere between 290 and 300, I think. So out of that, if we just take 300, because it's easy to do math, I'm not good with numbers. 300 calls at 40% is 120 calls, right? So 40% of our call volumes in Hartford, our ask is the normal 80 that you have in your budget, 15,000 for operating, 29,000 for the truck fund that you guys set aside and hold for us, which would be the 80,000 plus the 44 would be 124. That is what we're looking for. It's about a 3.25% increase over last year. So just basically cost of living increase on what repairs and maintenance would be. That's basically what we're looking at. We have a future plan on some of the trucks, but we're probably done buying trucks now for a little while, I would say. Maybe our next truck that we'd be looking at is maybe replacing truck 3, which is the ladder truck, because that's our oldest truck that's in line.
Didn't we just get that one out?
Yeah, we did, but it was 20 years old.
Yeah, it's a 23-year-old truck, so it'll last for a little while yet. But, we got that. It was going to be traded in at the time, and so we did a closed bid, and I believe we got that for $35,000, right in that area. So we got a pretty good deal on a truck that would be worth a lot more than that if we bought it new. Which, even if we did a ladder truck, another ladder truck, it'd still be a used ladder truck. We wouldn't be able to afford it. But other than that, we have newer SCBA's. We got the new tender and the new rescue, and so I think we'll be sitting in a pretty good position with the 29,000 that we set aside for the truck fund. We should still be able to have, based on our, we don't have our actual budget made out, so that's usually in October, but we're on that October and November's meetings. But we're gonna, if we're sitting in about the same position next year, we'd be able to do an equipment replacement fund, about $40,000. And I don't think we quite do the truck replacement fund for what we're looking at 100, but we'd be able to set aside, because if you look at what the future trucks are gonna cost, we have to set aside money each year in order to fund these trucks. So realistically, I guess that's where we're at. It'd be that 124, that 124 total as.
I asked Brian to send me the truck inventory, basically. Does anybody, I can forward that to everybody here, it's kind of interesting. That's a pretty old fleet.
It is. Wildland is in fairly decent shape yet. The pump is in good shape. And Wildland, you don't tend to find those used. Those usually get used up and go away. So our Squad 5, that's our new EMS truck. We got our Tender 2, which is our 3,000 gallon new tender. So that puts us in a pretty good position. Engine 1's in pretty good shape. We'd like to make it a little while longer on engine 1. We're sitting at 11 years old, probably go till it's 20 years old maybe. And then that ladder truck. Otherwise, utility, I think that's our old rescue. Our old Squad 6 is our old rescue, so we're holding that as a utility type truck. And every time we've gotten a truck, we tend to sell the old one, and we haven't had a problem selling the old ones when we get them. So, which we did that this time too with the old Tender, to a department in Iowa. So we tend to try to take care of it. We have a truck fund set up at one of the banks in town, and I didn't touch the majority of that money. We did a lot of this on cash flow. So had enough money set aside in the operating account for things to take care of that. And we ran into an offer we couldn't refuse on SCBA's, so we took advantage of that too to save us a pretty good chunk of change on SCBA's, which we did that with cash flow as well.
And I just want to clarify, he said 124,000, that 80,000 for the building payment is in the budget we approved for operating.
Right.
So you just be considering their
44,000.
operating expense and their equipment replacement, so.
Right,
Okay.
44,000.
Yeah.
If we budget money for truck replacement, don't we typically hold on to that until,
Yep.
Correct.
we don't release that, we
Until
release
they actually-
operating, and we release the 80,000 for the note, but we typically hold on to the truck replacement money, right?
Yep, yep.
Right. We'll be in-
Yeah, we hang on to it till they actually purchase something and
Correct.
give us receipts for it, and then they can
Yeah.
request it.
Okay. Any other questions for James? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks. All right. Next up, we have Hartford Senior Center. Oh, Senior Center. I think you're up.
I'm here to represent the senior center, and I come to beg for money, as you all know. But first, I want to say a thank you to all the council members, Jesse and Craig and Teresa and all those that helped make the move of the library to our building a graceful one without lots of bumps. And it really went well, and I think the community has received it well. So I thank you for that. And for our annual appropriation, you don't know what that 9,000 does for us, because my books are in the black. And there have been years when I was funneling money back and forth to make ends meet, and your money really helps us. So I again respectfully ask for that same amount.
Well, this might be off topic, and Jesse, you can maybe expand on it a little bit. Meals, the senior citizen meals. You met with Dawn last week. Does anything of this 9K apply to the future of Meals on Wheels in Hartford?
My understanding this request was submitted in August or early August, before we had any conversation with the GOAT or Epic Generations, and so I don't believe so.
Okay. Okay. Because there's some jeopardy there, right? Of that not happening if we don't meet a minimum of senior citizens per day.
There are some conversations happening right now to see if it's still a viable option to service both locations for senior meals.
Okay. Okay. Joanne, how important that is?
Pardon?
How important is the senior citizens meals to the senior citizen center?
We're in a transition right now, and I really don't know. I'm not on that committee,
Okay.
and Lois and I have not had time to talk about what is going to happen.
Okay.
But it sounds like they are trying to make some kind of a commitment
A
for
minimum.
each day.
Yeah.
And that's all I really know, Scott.
Okay. I might actually know one more than you then on that one for a change. Only because I ran into Ellie in church yesterday. That's why. Okay. All right. Thank you.
The 3,600 that the city pays to the senior center for the rental, does that then get moved forward to the county? Or where does the 3,600 stays there? So
It stays right here in town.
you're appreciating another $3,600 in.
It used to go to the county,
Right,
but when we made that move, it was to come to, for rent.
yeah,
So it all stays here.
it stays here.
Used to
this-
be, that was our portion that we paid Siouxland Library when they were in
Right,
high school. So instead of paying Siouxland Library now, we pay it to the senior center for rent on the building.
so that's
So that's over and above.
correct, that's income you had previously received
Correct.
in years prior.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I would say thank you for being good neighbors on that project. It went off very quickly and everything went well, and we appreciate your thank you, but there's a lot of thanks going back your way on making sure that project happened that way, so.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right, nothing else, any other questions on that? Move to Jamboree Days.
Hey guys, Lee Johnson, Denver Days, yay. You guys have seen a lot of me lately. Request is pretty much the same. We just did a very small budget meeting at the end of August to try to get some quick numbers. I know that there was a request from you to try to make the street dance bigger, so I know that committee's, we're gonna subcommittee out everything like we normally do, but I know that there's been some talk about that committee getting a little bigger. How can you do that? And if anything, build up a fund where every few years do a bigger name band, and then scale back for a couple of years and then a bigger band, so it's kind of what we're looking at. So I think you got everything else in front of you. I won't talk a whole lot, because I'm pretty sure you're all familiar with it, plus my allergies are kicking my tail. So, any questions?
Same ask as last year.
Yep.
All right,
Alright.
nothing else, move on. Thanks, Leo.
Thanks, Leo.
Yep, thank you. All right, hometown Christmas is our next one.
Basically, we increased this year for $2,000 from previous years. I think we've been at 8,000 for the last 4 years. Some of the main increases, we have moved out of the city maintenance shed for our North Pole storage. So we did procure our own storage shed for that. Our expenses, we're running about 50-50 between city covering and the sponsorships that we get. So our expenses run between 15 and 18,000 per event, and we work really hard on increasing our sponsorships, and the community, the businesses have been really generous on doing that, so we're counting on them to continue with that, so. other than that. whole lot changing. We've increased some with, just our locations and our carnival, that's gone up a little bit, so just the facility rentals, that's probably been the only changes the last few years. With ongoing expenses that are kind of there.
Any questions?
Okay.
All right, thank you, good, thank you. All right, now we're looking at items that come on the third penny fund. First up, we got the HAD app.
Good evening.
All right, go right ahead.
So in your packet is the budget request for 2020. Two things to highlight for our request. We're going to be continuing to do the Centers Improvement Program for next year. We've so far had 3 successful applications that have gone through. Another one to come here in September that's due. We've got a lot of great feedback from businesses in town that like this program. It's been successful in the fact that it helps update the signage in town and makes all the community appearance for folks who might be familiar with our community. Also in here you'll see a larger expense for an investment property income you had questions about. That is our plan for a commercial building we're planning to build on the South Street lots. That would be a daycare center in the works right now, and we have it projected to open in May or June of next year at this point. That is our plan. And then marketing, we're requesting the same amount as last year. Last year was some comments about maybe providing a breakdown of that marketing, and so we provided that here for you. We're really going to be hitting on the Live in Hartford theme. Our website is hartford.life. And so as we continue to go that route, we're looking at ways to capitalize on the Sioux Falls markets and also the I-90 area. So you'll see us advertising in Sioux Falls Women's Magazine for helping to create some traction and families that want to move out here. Also, we'll be advertising at Sioux Falls Airport. We secured a spot in front of their security booth, and so we'll have an ad there saying, "Live in Hartford, it's a safe place to live." Nice play on what's happening in Sioux Falls, as well as with the location close to the security checkpoint. I like puns, and so I think it's funny. And then, of course, our greatest bang for our buck is going to be Facebook and digital. We're also going to secure a billboard just to the east of Brandon, between Brandon and Laverne. So it would be a east-facing billboard on the north side of the interstate, hoping to capture traffic from folks that are traveling to the Minneapolis, St. Paul area back to Sioux Falls during football season, and as well as just in general from January through June next year. We're not looking to hit the Brandon market or Laverne for that matter, but Sioux Falls travelers mostly are coming through. I know when I travel to Minneapolis, I look at every single one of those billboards because I'm so tired of traveling that route. And so that's going to be a big Live in Hartford or
It's okay to target the Laverne and Brandon people though too.
We want to be friendly with our colleagues around the area. We don't want to burn any bridges down. So, any questions there?
I got a little question on the
Sure.
billboard, the vinyl itself.
Yeah.
So, you're gonna have it up there for how long?
6 months.
And what are you gonna do with it after that? 48 by 12, I assume?
I don't know the exact dimensions.
That's usually the dimension of the billboard. I'm just saying that, don't tear it up. I mean,
Sure.
you might be able to put one up here, if it's
Yeah.
okay with Teresa, of course.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that at all because Lamar takes care of all the billboard printing, installation. In fact, I don't even know if we own the vinyl or not, so I'd have to check into that.
Yeah, it might be a good secondary use for it. And God knows well, there's certainly a hometown Christmas banner sitting up there that's been there for how long now, Lise? Probably about 10, it might be 10 years. So, yeah, don't let that thing go to waste.
That's
That's
the
all I
comment,
want to say
appreciate
about
it,
that.
thank you.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. Any questions for Jesse on HADF?
Just want to make a comment. I noticed membership.
Yes, thank you.
Membership dues went up 100%.
Yeah, we went from 0 to now we're going to implement a membership due for 2020 is our plan. Looking at doing $250 per membership. We're looking to really find ways to connect with the businesses in town so they know exactly what the foundation's doing for its business development efforts, as well as to market the opportunities here in the Hartford area. I had a phone call from a P&Z board member on Friday that was talking about how the brewery had a family visiting from Colorado. The only reason why they knew about that is because the brewery had a billboard out on I-90. And so things like that we can help, advertise or get out there. And anytime you bring somebody into town for a business purpose is a win for everybody, as we know that money stays in town and the sales tax is reinvested in the community. You want to sign up now, or should we contact you at a different time?
Well, I was talking about what the businesses have to pay to be a member.
$250.
Yeah,
$250.
that's up from $25.
Yeah, so before it was bronze, silver, and gold members, so some sort of agreement was made when the chamber split out of the development corporation that $25 for each member would go to the development corporation. In 2016, that changed from all members to just bronze, silver, and gold members. And now we've parted ways with that agreement. We're going to go our own way and find our own membership base for a different purpose than the Chamber of Commerce. Not to compete with the Chamber of Commerce by any means, but to serve a different purpose.
Absolutely. Yep, and you get information, everything is different.
Absolutely.
Okay. If nothing else, we'll move on to the Hartford Area Chamber of Commerce.
Doesn't matter.
The reason I can tag team this one.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead, Jesse.
what was that?
You go ahead.
Okay. So in your packet is a Chamber of Commerce budget for 2020. We've had a fantastic year here in 2019, looking to continue momentum into next year. We're really going to start expanding some of our events and capturing some of the non-dues revenue out there. Specifically thinking our annual banquet and golf tournament. We've already booked our act for February 7th. It is the dueling piano group. Looking for ways to really engage with membership in a different aspect, as well as create a revenue source for the chamber to invest back in the community. Other areas there we're going to capitalize on, of course, is our golf tournament. We know that's a great moneymaker for the chamber, and we've heard a lot of great feedback from folks that golfed it the last time. We are up one team from last year, and revenue was much different this year than last year. Last year, pretty much giving away tickets to the golf tournament, and this year we are charging about $300 to $400 per team, depending on when you registered and if you were a sponsor or not. Great feedback, great event, people really enjoyed it. Also, you'll see in here is an item for Thursdays. It's been a trial year for us. We've had one rained out. Folks that have attended have really liked that, and so next year we want to really roll that out harder. It's a great way to keep folks in town on evenings and to find ways to also get some business sponsorship or member sponsorship in front of these people that might not only interact with businesses. We're going to be really hitting on our social media. Discover Hartford campaign is going to continue going. We're continuing our newsletter campaign, which is done on a quarterly basis. And then there's a few items in there for continuing education, conferences that I attend, as well as for some of the dues and subscriptions that were part of the Sioux Falls Chamber, ACCE, South Dakota Chamber, and Retailers Association. And the rent item there you might see is for our storage shed, for our marquee that we own. It's a great service we provide to our members at no charge. Any member of the Chamber of Commerce can rent or lease, or there's more of a rent checkout. They can check out the portable marquee and place it around town as a way to get the word about their event or business need. We just hit 130 memberships on Friday, so
130?
130 all time.
Great. Good momentum.
Feel good. Anything you need to add, Lisa?
No other questions? Teresa, did we miss anything?
I think those are all the requests from the other entities.
Okay. All right. adoption of budget items and requests. So, you've got a couple items in here. Fund balances and where they end up.
Yep, so the next 4 pages in your packet are probably the most important ones in there. Basically, I have a breakdown of our general fund, third penny sales tax, the water fund, and the sewer fund. I show what our anticipated, well, first I show what we have in reserves, what we figure to have at the end of this year. I show what we anticipate to get for revenues in 2020, what we anticipate to get have for expenses in 2020, and then what that difference is of money that we will generate in 2020 that you can disperse out to other entities, or there also is a list of considerations from staff to think about of items that we can foresee needing and using for maintenance of the city in the future. So like I said, there's one for the general fund and then a list of requests. There's one for the third penny fund and a list of requests. And I put this in the packet, but for the third penny sales tax, usually we've been paying the chamber and the HADF requests out of that. In the past, we've also done Jamboree Days, Hometown Christmas. We could take any kind of promotions out of here. But just with the chamber and HADF, you've already using up how much we plan to have extra plus some in reserve. So we can take the Jamboree and Hometown Christmas and other items out of the general fund and just save the third penny for those 2 entities. Or you can take them out of the general fund too if you want to, but you know, we don't want to take too much out of the third penny sales tax because we don't have a lot in reserve balance either. So, and same thing then with the water and sewer. There's highlighted amount of what we'll have in revenues versus expenses, and then a list of items that we can take out of those funds too. So the items that staff is requesting to come out of streets and parks, there is a list in there of our considerations, a little explanation of it. Do you have any questions about any of those items? Okay. All right, we can start your discussion.
All right. Now it's time to figure out where we got to go next. Have a flurry of motions. Discussion.
Before we get going, I would actually, I didn't formally request any funds, but I talked to Sandy some months ago, and she brought to my attention, I forget the name, Sandy, but a long time ago, somebody donated $10,000 to the city of Hartford. It was, it's my understanding that it was supposed to be donated, and there was no recognition of this donation. So Sandy approached me some months ago. I checked with Teresa. Teresa verified it. It went in the general account, and nobody knows about it because it went in the general. There was no recognition. So before we get going, I would like to see, and I don't know, Sandy and whoever else is involved, I don't know what that recognition looks like, and I don't think anybody else does either. But right from the get-go, I'd like $10,000 to be budgeted for some type of recognition. And maybe it's not 10,000, but I'd like to budget for some type of recognition for that gift all those years ago. Who was it, Teresa?
Leo Scher, Leo and Violet, I think it was that correct?
Go ahead, Sandy.
Leo and Violet Shear served the community for many, many years before even Leo was born here. It was kind of a dark situation that led to the fact that the 10,000 was given to the city in the first place. It was a guardianship that was taken over, and there was nobody more surprised than the old city council that that's what went to the city in the first place. As part part of that whole difficult situation. Charles Meyer, Bob and I let it slide just because it was at least going to Hartford, because it could have very easily not been any residual estate at all.
Well, we don't need to
So,
get into
and you
those
don't need to
dirty
get
facts.
into that, but that's the thing, the 10,000 ended up, and it was the understanding that it was at least to be designated to some parks project, something that would bear their name in a long-term situation, not just a piece of paper that recognized them in a city council. And so that's where I brought that up, just as.
So we can, I mean, honestly, we can just make a motion to budget $10,000 expenditure next year to honor this year's in some type of long-term fashion,
I guess what this was on the agenda for last meeting. No one was here to represent it, so it's not on the agenda for this meeting. If we are going to allocate any funds for it, I would just assume that it be allocated in a miscellaneous type fashion, because it was an agenda item, it wasn't addressed because no one was here to address it. And I'm not saying we should or we shouldn't, but I want to make sure we take proper form of it. Does that make sense?
Was it on the agenda now for October, Teresa?
Yeah, so the motion was to put it to the first meeting in October, so I do have it slated to be on that agenda, discussion of it.
I figured take that general if something transpires.
If we want to be here.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Sandy wasn't here, you weren't here.
I wanted to be here Tuesday, but
Could be.
that was a rough day.
I didn't want to be here Tuesday, but here I
I'll maybe move over to Craig for that a little bit. There's a dog park. We talked about that a little bit. Craig and Jesse. That was at the last council meeting. We discussed a little bit about that. Thoughts, discussion, should there be a certain amount allocated for something like that?
I guess I looked at some spots and I think I got some ideas. I guess I didn't know how that was working, if the Girl Scouts were gonna try to raise the money for it, or if we were allocating the money for it. We might have some fencing available, depends on how much we need. I guess if we did, stick 5,000, probably do a lot of fencing. It's not gonna. So it'd be one of those projects that the fence itself, we could probably do ourselves, just a matter of getting the materials. And I haven't priced fence for a while, so like that, because it's only about a 5-foot fence, like lighter duty,
So to add Craig, what Craig's saying, I think the Girl Scouts thought is they would maybe fundraise for some of the equipment that would be in there. Things that they've talked about that they would like in there would be, trees to be planted around the area to provide shade, fencing, which Craig mentioned, probably soil and grass seed, depending on where it's at. They said water is important for the dogs to have, so if there's not water nearby, getting water to the area in question. I think they checked off the box, and maybe some concrete work too for entrances and exits. But that was just the ideas that they threw around at our last meeting, which was about a year ago.
Okay. So, I think, does that answer your question? I mean, that is a good thing to keep in mind as we're thinking about funds for some of those things. All right, council, where would you like to start?
Well, let's start with the senior center. I make a motion, we allocate $9,000 for the seniors.
Got a motion? Second? Discussion? Hearing none?
Just
Go ahead.
Just one thought, again,
Yep.
like I alluded to with Joanne in there, I was a long support of funding the seniors, but they're gonna come in at about another $3,600 if they haven't seen previous. But I'm setting a nice balance here at the end of 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
Okay. What are thoughts? Alright, now we'll vote. Brennan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teal?
Yes.
Lanzer?
Yes.
And Nelson.
Yes.
Make a motion that we budget $15,000 for the humble there.
Second.
What it was, right?
Humboldt
15,000.
ambulance. Humboldt ambulance, yep. Got a motion and a second. Discussion. None. Nelson?
Yes.
Lanzer?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes.
Brenneman?
Yes.
And Monahan.
Yeah.
Motion to approve $44,000 for Hartford area bike and rec.
$44,000, Hartford area bike, rec trails. Discussion.
So they're applying for grants, right?
I think that's their intention. I don't think they've applied for any yet, but
That's correct.
if we,
Yeah.
What Troy said, from what I heard anyway, was that if they don't get the grants they're hoping for, they're not gonna spend this money. You know, we have to be married together.
They're looking at getting an 80-20 grant. This 44,000 would be the 20%. The other 80 coming from the grant, and for an average of what it would cost to do that trip.
Other questions? Okay, now we'll vote. Keel?
Yes.
Lanzer?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Brenneman?
Yeah.
And Monahan.
Yeah. Make a motion that we budget $25,000 for jamboree days.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Discussion? None. Monahan?
Yeah.
Brenneman?
Yep.
Keel?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
And Lanzer.
Yes.
Make a
Motion.
motion that we budget $10,000 for hometown Christmas.
Second.
Discussion? None. Keel?
Yes.
Lanzer?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yeah.
And Brenneman.
Yep.
Make a motion that we budget $10,000 for downtown Hartford.
Second.
Discussion? None. We'll vote. Downtown Hartford, 10,000. Lanzer?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Brenneman?
No.
Monahan?
Yeah.
And Keel.
Yes.
Okay.
Make a motion that we budget 44,000 additional dollars on top of the 80 that's already allocated for the Hartford area fire and rescue,
Second.
with
Oops.
29,000 of that being held back until such time as it needed for truck replacement.
Well, still second.
Do you have everything you need there, Karen?
I do.
Okay. Discussion. Okay. Brenneman?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yeah.
Lanzer?
Yes.
And Nelson.
Yes. Gets here.
Is it total so far? 157.
157?
That's what I got. What do you got?
383
383.
Remaining.
The remaining, yes, remaining.
Yeah.
No, you have three.
So you're going down,
remaining.
good idea.
I thought that's what we told so far, we're gonna have to look for a new finance officer.
Way to stay on
Sorry,
top,
getting
well
backwards
done.
math, right?
Usually we had us to do the.
383 remaining?
Yes.
Yeah, we just call it a nine.
Motion to approve, $46,000 for the HADF.
This is out of the third penny?
Would there be an issue with that?
No, I'm just want to
That's where it
clarify it.
most likely should be.
That's where it's noted, yeah, so I assume that would be that, so yes, but a good point,
We-
out
we
of
were on
third penny,
the
yes.
same.
We get a motion.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay.
How much was that, Scott? 46?
46.
Jesse? You alluded to the daycare on South Street.
Yep.
So that, how much of that 46,000 in last year, or actually what was allocated to them this year from last year's budget? How much of that money is going to facilitate that project?
We are hoping that if the current projections on the cost of the facility stay in place, that we will be eligible for what is called refunding for the project, which will only require us to have 15% down on the project. We'll be able to work with a couple of banks with the thought that we can have $48,000 of cash into it along with the land to meet that requirement.
Will you need the land for $1?
We already had the land.
You already have the land,
Yep.
it's been brought over, that's right.
Correct. And we have it, and we worked with Stockwell to have it brought out of the floodplain through Wilmar F, which was approved in July.
A little bit off topic, 2 seconds.
Sure.
How, was that like pulling hen's teeth to get that out of the floodplain?
With the
Floodway?
fill, so it was in the floodplain before.
Right.
With the city's grading project you guys did back in 2017 or 18. It was fairly easy, just an expensive, long process, and it cost us, between $4,000 to $6,000 in total.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. Looks good.
Yeah, it does.
Other discussion?
Is the HADF marketing any of that dirt on the 5 acres, or is that just strictly up to the city?
Up to the city at this point, we'd be happy to market if you'd like us to. We've offered it to prospects have asked about it, and it's been a discussion point.
I'd entertain we discuss at some future meeting how to leverage that into your favor.
I think you'll find,
Good call.
I think I have 2 business prospects right now I'm working with that would be interested in taking that dirt off your hands as an incentive, if you wanted to go that route anyways.
Can I ask you, I'm gonna ask you one question, Jesse.
Yep.
Because this is my problem, I don't know if we've talked about this before or not, but my problem is because you're the one that brought up the daycare. So this is actually taxpayer funding of the HADF, which in turn is gonna use taxpayer money to turn around and help get a daycare started on South Street to directly compete with other daycares in town. And I know we need more daycare, but how do I square that with people saying that you're using taxpayer funding to facilitate a business to compete with other businesses in this town? Because we're not facilitating a bar, we're not facilitating a brewery, we're not facilitating a flower shop, we're not facilitating a grocery store, a parts store, a pizza chain.
Sure.
So how do I square that?
I would guess I would take the approach the same way you would defend a tax abatement, which in effect does the same. For new businesses that come into town, we abate property tax, and so what happens is that the rest of the community takes that property tax on, and so that abatement comes out of that 5-year schedule. And so in effect, we are subsidizing competition elsewhere. This is just in a different form of that subsidy.
I think it's also fair to point out that every daycare business unit in town was asked was that there was a need out there, there's significant waiting lists at each one of them right now. And it gave everyone an opportunity to say, hop in.
Correct, yep, and you'll find that with our growth, it's not gonna be a huge issue competition-wise. There's, like Mayor alluded to, there's waiting lists for all the daycare centers that I'm aware of in town. And as we add 150, 200, 300 more homes in the next 5 to 10 years, the demand is gonna continue to increase. And if we're not proactive in that, we're going to lose out on some of that construction, which will delay that process even more.
That was the pitch I was gonna take, is if you wanna look back at 5 or 10 years and say that the improvements we've made in 2019, 2018 weren't effective, then you figure out how to limit childcare in this community, you'll succeed in any development in this community.
Yeah. I think before sewer limits us from a development purpose, daycare will do that for us. Especially if our median age is about 31 years old, we're attracting young families, and if they have a place to put their kids, then they're gonna go somewhere else.
That's a great point. Yeah, average age of 31, and that's unheard of.
Yeah, we're one of the younger ones in the area. We also, when we hosted Project Aries back in 2017, that was one of the first questions they asked us on our community tour was, what is your daycare situation? And that's really what spawned this whole process. That's what our board decided that this daycare issue was something we should look into. We did a survey in October of that year and decided to issue an RFP in January of 2018. And it's been a long process. These are complex projects, and I think a little bit longer than any of us would like it to be at this point. But to do it right, we have to do our due diligence.
Let's expand one more, just a little jump on that, and that would be Central States. The reason that Brittany has a job at Central States right now was because of the school system itself. That was brought up adamantly many times. You know, the same thing kind of, I think, holds true here. If Mark, if you're moving to a new community and you had a 2-year-old, you gotta make sure you have some place to go and not have to drive 15 miles to make sure that when you go to work, you know, that you're gonna go out of your way to do it. And so, once again, it's an investment now. I think that'll definitely pay off in the long run. Obviously, making the HADF, making it somewhat of a priority at this point.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, we got a motion and a second on 46,000 HADF. We have more discussion. Now we'll vote. Keel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yep.
Lanzer?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yeah.
And Nelson?
Yes.
I'm gonna make a motion that we earmark $50,000 out of the general, $25,000 out of the water. Now, which one's healthier, Teresa, the water or sewer?
The water's
Water.
out there.
50,000 out of the general and 25 out of the water for the 6 month sewer pipe savings account.
Second.
How much did we allocate last year? 100.
Wasn't it 20, wasn't it 50, 25, 25? Thought that's what I read. It was 100 last year.
Unless it was.
Last year in 19, we allocated 50,000 straight out of the water.
Straight out of the water.
Yep. The year before 18, we had 50,000 out of the general. And in 17, we split it up between water and sewer and so forth.
So, Mr. Bregman, I think it's on the bottom 5 of our CIP right now, unless it presents itself as a problem where it becomes number 1 in about a day, right? Because it's clay market.
Yeah, we've got budget money for televising again the following year now, so we'll keep an eye on it. As long as it hangs in there, so.
Is that one we were able to line to extend its life, or we haven't been able to, there's nothing you can do with that line?
You can line them, but the street itself's
That's true too.
junk,
Yeah, yeah.
so it doesn't pay to spend extra money lining it when you can just rebuild it. And there's 2 blocks of asbestos pipe out there too, but we need to get rid of.
All right, we have a motion and a second. 25,000. 50,000 coming from general fund, 25,000 from the water fund. For 6 of them on discussion. Nelson?
Yes.
Lanzer? Keel?
Yes.
Brenneman?
Yeah.
Kamani?
Yeah.
Sorry, Jess, go
So
ahead.
I got a question before we go any further, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Well, we haven't addressed one budget item that's obviously too large for us to put into the budget for next year at this point, which is the sports rec committee, the $500,000. So what are our options if we want to fund that next year? Put money away, then borrow, or, I mean, how can we make this happen down the road, because we don't have the money tonight to do it?
I mean, you can put a portion in the budget for engineering and whatnot, or, like I said, you can have more discussion later this year, next year. If you decide to do the project, then discuss what our funding sources are gonna be, and then do a supplemental appropriation, so.
Similar to, like, me and Mark, we had budgeted $1 million.
Right,
Right,
just
before
like
that.
that. We decided to do the project after we did our 2019, budget, so we'll need to do a supplemental appropriation, but we figured out we're gonna fund it with a loan and go from there.
The sewer, because ultimately that concession stand / restroom is tied to that sewer project.
Yeah,
Because
yes.
you could have all the indoor plumbing you want up there, but if you don't have a pipe, you're still using porta potties.
Exactly, yeah.
Really.
Good point.
We're not gonna put a septic tank in, I don't think.
Now north is close.
Yeah, so in my mind, those two projects are tied together. So if the sewer's coming in at, what, 800, 850? And then, Taj Mahal,
1.3, I think it was.
It's
yeah.
what?
1.3 is the sewer.
where'd the other 500 come from? I thought the sewer was 800 and change.
It started off that, remember, they did a
Oh, now we're
revised
up to-
estimate and it showed up.
So I'm going off the old number.
Yeah, you're going off the old one,
So this is the,
unfortunately.
so 1.2, 1.3 for the sewer. So in the event we put that in, that's obviously gonna be bonded with the, I can't think of the name of the loan.
We're planning to do
Some lip phones.
Yeah.
some lip loans bonds from GOD and then SRF as the other portion.
So in my mind, if we're gonna get on the boat to do that sewer project and do the concession stand project, you figure out what the debt service is. Instead of 1.2, you figure out what it is on 1.5, 1.7. And if you're gonna budget something, you budget that debt service number, is what I would like to see done.
That makes sense.
Because we can put $100,000 away, but ultimately you're just budgeting for debt service is what you're doing, so, in my opinion. So,
Mark, would you like to see like a 50-50 scenario in regards to the number with sports complex right now?
A, I wanted to clarify how it worked, what our options are, and B, I'd like to see a commitment from the council somehow.
Right.
So if somebody has a way to do that, make it sound good on paper.
Karen, how much is left in the budget here? What's our remaining?
337,000.
333 in the general.
333? Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, Mark. Scott, you alluded to a 50-50 or match. And so we've tried to, get that group, do some fundraising. They're currently talking about the Chase the Ace group, and so I've been kicking around matching funds, sort of the budget X amount of dollars. We'll match those funds up to that amount.
there's 287 left in the general right now. Because it was 383 minus the 46 for the HADF.
That goes after.
That was third.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
There was 383 and now it's the
That's why I'm not
50,000.
So it's.
So it's 333,
Roughly what would the
126.
debt service on 1.8 million.
For those of you playing at home.
Yeah, what is
Based
it?
on, yeah.
What is the debt service? Well, we can say, what's the debt service on Vandermark? And that would roughly be the debt service.
That's a good estimate.
That would be a good estimate, so. Yeah.
You're right, Vandermark.
Did you look at that?
Just tying together,
Trying to see what the debt service.
tying together what you said, and that service on sports and rec.
30 bankers or financial people in here.
Wherever we're gonna look at this.
We're looking at them.
Are you asking, are we ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, debt service on Vandermark.
The debt service on the Vandermark is going to be about 120,000. A year.
And the total principal balance on that initially? On Vandermark? Not how much we spent, but how much we borrowed on Vandermark.
That's what my balance, I don't remember right offhand.
Okay.
Still borrowing.
The 1.2 or 3 on that sewer though, that's not counting the grant from the state.
Exactly.
Because weren't we talking about a $300,000 or $400,000 grant from the state?
$334,000.
How much?
$334,000. But Stockwell also believes that the number will be lower. The 1.3 is going to be lower than that next year. They revised the numbers because the bids were coming back so higher when they revised that due to some of the congestion and the backlog of the weather. And so I don't want to be optimistic, but I can see that number decreasing next year below the $1 million mark again, as long as things continue to be where they're at today.
Even if we figure the city's cost at $1 million and the concession stand at $500,000, you're looking at 1.5 in debt service, so that's.
And that's even without putting in, that's without the sports account, without that committee putting in 120,000 or so on this one.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out.
Well, just to make it simple, if we allocated $100,000 in debt service and they have $100,000, if we build something, that would certainly pay the debt. I mean, we can sit here all night trying to figure out what the number's gonna be, but you never do.
I also want to reiterate, we want to make sure we don't forget about Chamber of Commerce. We get past that.
No, we won't.
I move we budget $150,000 towards concessions and restroom facility at the Swenson Sports Complex. With the contingency that we get at least $75,000 matching funds from the Hartford Area Sports and Rec Group.
I'll second for discussion. So I want to make sure one thing, what Mark alluded to before, I want to make sure if we would pass that we make sure we got a pipe to facilitate said facility.
Right.
I
so
almost
right-
like to do that first, and I'm not
Well, and
arguing, I'm just.
I think what you're getting at though is today we're budgeting money, and it's a plan. And you would still have to, there's still several steps before you spend that money, right? So
Right,
we need that sewer pipe to be a go
exactly.
before we do this. But this is a good way for us to budget and set aside and allocate and put things away and say, yep, this is our plan, and this is what we should do.
Makes sense.
So I don't think it has to be part of the motion tonight, but it definitely needs to be part of the discussion and knowing that, well, we're not gonna put it up there unless we get a pipe.
Right.
And we're not gonna get a pipe, we're not gonna put a pipe up there unless we get the lip funds to do it. So there's several steps that have to happen.
Exactly. That's why I want to make sure we're cognizant of that.
Yep.
Could you read it back, Karen, please?
Yeah, Travis made the motion to allocate $150,000 for the concessions stand, restroom building at the sports complex, on the condition that 75,000 of matching funds come in from Hartford area sports and rec.
Now, I want to clarify, there's $120-some thousand that the Hartford Area Sports and Rec believes is in their fund. About 21,000 in their checking currently, plus the earmarked for this group currently. There's another 100-some thousand.
126,000 that we have sitting with the city,
And
yep.
that's not gonna change, that's not gonna go away.
That's already sitting in their fund with the
Alright,
city,
well,
yep.
Just putting all the numbers together in my head, see if we could get there, given their budget, our budget, the project, all of that.
Is your motion, just to clarify for the group, is your motion to spend that money on actual construction, or is that to be set aside as money that could be spent for debt service for construction? What's your intention?
My intention was to spend that on actual construction, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Matt, the 75K in your part, make you shiver?
A little bit, we have, a good start as far as the Chase the Ace. We had a group that met again last night, so a lot of it has to do with how well that runs. We've seen some success in some, local communities where that has brought in quite a bit.
Yeah, and you understood my intent, but the intent is that it's new revenue being generated, we're gonna take the
Right.
75 of what we already have.
Correct, that you're looking for us to raise $75,000 in addition to what we already have.
Man, my advice there is to use that as an incentive to any and all. I mean, obviously you have a lot of people involved directly and indirectly with the Hartford area sports and rec. And I like where Travis is going with this, because sometimes you just gotta lay it all out there. If you want it, here's what you need to do. Here's what we need to do, so, did that make sense? Am I being out of line by kind of asking that, to ask of your people that utilize this facility?
I think that's,
I mean,
part of the
you can't
council's
expect it.
prerogative, that's part of the council's prerogative, if that's how they want to address it, and, as far as moving forward, we have, that fundraising opportunity that we're working with, as well as hopefully some other sponsorship, that type of thing, but that also does, given the timing of it and how long it might take to raise that based on how quickly, these cards are chosen, because a lot of that, as far as the money that's generated, if, week 3, we would start over, but if we keep on getting hit with people pulling the card early on, that really slows things down, or, we don't generate as much as some of these other people that have gone into week 40, before, that particular card is pulled, which then puts off, the project even more, I guess.
I don't quite follow you when you use the term hold a card, I'm sorry.
Sorry, so with the Chase the Ace, you have your deck of cards, where, Dan, what do we chase the heart, or?
Oh, you're talking about Ace, okay, I'm sorry.
So for that
Thank you.
fundraiser thing, that
Okay.
it could go on,
I understand that, yeah.
right.
Which card we're talking about here, okay, got it.
Okay, all right, so we got a motion and a second on that.
Right,
Discussion on.
And can I make one more, just as far as addressing this, and Mr. Monahan has made several comments over the past couple of years, and he even made it just now as far as this Taj Mahal. I think I just want to remind everyone that what we want is something very basic for people to be able to have a restroom, and it's more of a restroom facility with a concession on the side where groups can make money. But it's mainly a restroom facility for the kids, the grandparents, everybody else to have a place to use the facilities. This Taj Mahal, we're not looking for a Taj Mahal. That's what Stockwell has put together. We've asked for basic things, and I'm sorry, they blow it up. You know, that $600,000 thing that they put together is based on, I think, a 1,600-foot facility, where the one that we're talking about that we have an estimate is based on, I believe, 1,150. So we're not looking for the Taj Mahal of restrooms. You know, we're looking for the basics to meet the needs of our community and those people that use it. So, you know.
And what I would mention is, yeah, with, just to piggyback on what you're saying, is what it's up there right now is below adequate.
Correct. You know, when you've got people, though my kids don't play softball, but when they're playing soccer, and I've got a grandmother that has MS and has to get through trying to get to fields, and I can't imagine, you know, when you go to even the softball fields, trying to go with a scooter or anything like that to get to a field, they can't do it. You know, trying to get in just the dignity of somebody, you know, using a porta potty constantly for how many years it's been up there. I mean, so I just want to reiterate, we're just looking for the basics. We're not looking for, you know, and I get frustrated when that keeps on getting used, and it wasn't our, as a group, discussion to have the top of the line, everything. That seems to be every time that we've gone back to Stockwell and asked them to put things, that it's always top of the line, you know, looking at the...
And my comments about the Taj Mahal are not a reflection on you or your group. They're actually a reflection on Stockwell.
Okay, thank you.
Because I know when Stockwell gives you guys numbers, they're thinking of Harmon Park, they're thinking of that type of facility.
Right.
And I know that, so my comments are not directed at you and your group.
Okay, thank you for
My
that.
comments are actually directed at Stockwell,
Right.
designing the Taj Mahal of the outdoor facility use.
Right. And that's what we keep on, and that's what makes it hard for us to come back and say, when we're forced to use their numbers,
No, I know.
you know, it's hard to come back because we would have asked for less probably, but based off of, you know, we're told we need to use their numbers, so.
Yeah, in your defense, I see where you're coming from. You're trying to get out there so you can at least get something. So
Right.
They know party though, that's not a comment on you.
No, thank you.
All right, we got a couple side discussions going on this. We got a motion and a second for this out there. Any other discussion, possible discussion of something else?
I'll just say one thing.
Yep.
I think that 150 is a little strong because there's still $30,000 worth of sidewalk on Nicholson I'd like to do. I don't know how critical the Opal intersection is, but if that's $180,000. Craig wants a dump truck, that'd be $30,000 out of the general. And I don't know if you guys have seen our dump truck. He wants a $25,000 mower, just like every year he wants a new mower.
It's been about every year to
But I mean, they mow grass, it's unbelievable the grass they mow. And $10,000 worth of bleachers, so you put that all together, it's $275,000. And right now, we're sitting at $333, and that's prior to the 150. So you pull 150 out of that, there's a whole lot of something that ain't getting done. So that's all I'm saying. I just think the number's a little strong. I do understand you wanna build it though. But
I think that was a little strong, so I don't think we'll get to 75.
yeah, but see, what I'm afraid of though
It's a challenge.
is if you budget that, if you earmark that, and then you budget the rest of this, the budget will reflect us going on under $500,000 correct, in the general. And I'm not ready to do that.
The point of it was to really just generate some discussion.
No, I don't.
Did good.
Okay.
What if we
we just did concrete work.
I'd have to go back to, I think at one point in time, actually, the concrete work, we thought we could do easily with 100,000, well under the 100,000 that we had, even under the 50,000 that, you know, that we would need to go through the official bidding project, if I was correct.
I'm trying to pull it up. They had it separated for us on the last cost estimate we got.
Square footage wise, about 30,000. 20-foot pad all the way around the concession stand, and 10-foot pad all, 350 feet, 10-foot pad all the way to the facility. 75 concrete went up 50 cents this year, so we're looking at 375 square foot.
Well, for one estimate Stockwell had on here, the temporary sidewalk that was budgeted with the $600,000 estimate for that phase of the concession stands was budgeted at $125,000 in order to do. The reason they say temporary is it would be the goal of making it bigger in the long term, but that's the low estimate as far as the cement goes from their perspective.
Nelson?
Yes.
No. Clancy?
Yes.
No. Thank you.
No.
Okay.
Make a motion, we budget $100,000 for the sports complex. 100.
Yep.
General.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion.
Didn't hear, it, sorry.
100,000
100.
out of general
Or,
to the sports complex.
Okay. No contingencies.
got it.
Okay, discussion.
So this would be put in their fund?
Well, I
Right.
think it would be released, I don't think that money would get released until we're presented with a concrete project, we're presented with, something.
Yeah, so when we allocate to these groups that we hold funds for, it'll go into their city fund. And like you said, once they do a project or present, you guys with, we paid this, then we release the funds, yeah. They'll
Or we could
still come
use it
before you
towards-
guys to release the
Or we could
funds.
use it towards debt service.
Or you can use it toward debt service, but it'll sit in the sports complex fund with the city until you guys release it.
I have a quick question on this. If we were to move forward with our sewer pipe project next month, right? Or whenever, let's say we're moving forward with it and we get release of those LIP funds, we know we're going to get them. The additional funds it's gonna take to do that sewer, where's that coming from, right?
SRF.
SRF? Okay. And we filled that, okay.
Which is not in that application.
There was some discussion about lumping this in with that.
Right.
Can we do that?
You can't put a building with an SRF,
With an
that's
SRF,
strictly
it's all
sewer.
gotta be infrastructure.
Yeah, you'd have to find another
We don't
funding
have the right
source.
funding mechanism in place to pay for the sewer and this.
Yeah.
All
They're
in one.
different.
Not with the same funding, you'd have to find another funding source.
Okay.
It could be one project, but you'd have to.
So it's just another project to do, pay debt service on at a different interest rate.
The original plans we talked to Stockwell's was to bring the sewer actually out to where the concession stand would be. That was part of that project.
Yep.
That's
So the sewer will get.
Sewer's gonna get there, whether.
But
it's
you just don't
building
get
there
to the
or not.
building, yeah.
Yep, so that's already figured in on that price.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second on $100,000. One more discussion? Vote. Brenneman?
Yeah.
Keel?
Yes.
Lancer?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yeah.
Nelson?
Yes.
Okay.
Make a motion for budget 32,000
Second.
I actually have some questions about this, Lisa. And forgive me, but I didn't get a chance to look at the application, or your debt. But, 2019, we budgeted $26,900, and that included hometown Christmas, which is now separate. So now this year, you're asking for more, but you don't have the Christmas money coming out of it. So how's that?
Basically, the way it breaks down is we're asking more for the Jamboree Day Carnival. We had asked for 5,000 last year. The bill was 20,000. We got the carnival, so the bill is still looking to be 20,000. So we're asking for 15,000, and it ends up being about 2,000 additional in operating expenses. So the majority of it is the carnival.
Okay. So I'll have.
Any more discussion? Vote. Clancy? Keel?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was all out of general, right?
Yeah.
You want chamber out of general? And not third penny?
Did you say we don't have enough in third penny to cover everything?
We don't.
We don't, you'd have to take it out of reserves. Yeah, so if you want to take it out of general.
So
yeah.
with the, how much was in the third penny, Teresa? 75? That we said?
The requests were for 77,590. We anticipate to get about 63,000. We do have 55,000 in reserves, so if you pay it all out of the third penny, we'll have to use about 14,000 from reserves. Which brings that down
I
to
think
one.
emotional state, just take that down.
So then our reserves in third penny will actually grow this year for the first time.
Yeah, because we, like, put in your notes, we've been taking out the reserves for the last, 4 years we've been doing this, and this report there. Because we just don't generate enough to cover the requests, so that'd be good. Okay.
Alright. What else do we have?
Craig, oh, they're boss.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
Moving right along.
No, let's just do it. All right,
Yeah.
Yep.
Keel.
What am I voting for?
I know, you know what?
Oh, we did,
Hold up a minute. I already voted on it.
That's, I have no idea.
I did too.
We voted on it. That raises the question. That's coming out of general fund, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I was
After we
doing
vote
math
on
over
another
here.
question.
I want to make sure it's together down.
Did I step out for a minute? That's a lot of numbers to say. That's a lot of numbers. Did I ask my question before or after the vote?
You did after. And we asked for
So it was like,
clarification.
well, we were screwed.
That's solid.
I was just clarifying something that we got way sideways.
This isn't being taped, is it, Teresa?
Yep.
It is? Nice. Nice. Go back and watch that.
All right, so what else do we have now?
Yes, great.
They're all Craig's requests, as Mark just
What do we
alluded
show
to.
for remaining?
201, I have 201, 126.
I make a
From the
motion
general.
to approve the additional full-time public works assistant
Second.
as presented, third.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Nuances, I mean, I know you've talked about it, but an example that, this year made it more prominent than years past, why we need that?
Way the town's growing, more streets to plow, more to spray, I mean, just, we need another person.
Put this in, instead of reduce the OT then, or?
You're still gonna
others,
end
or
up
is it
with,
just
you'll
the-
still end up with some overtime and that stuff, there's just times you can't get it all done in 40 hours, but it'll help.
1,500 hours if I counted right, Joe.
Yeah,
every
would
time.
that be cut?
Yeah, it'll knock it down, yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much your employee right there.
Yeah, because you're paying them now, yeah.
It's 500 short, so Even if.
I suppose a big part of it depends on, some of that OT happens when you can't avoid it, winter storm, stuff like that. And some of it is
That's-
because you're not caught up on projects.
Like mine's mostly wintertime plowing on a Saturday or Sunday or something like that, and then meetings that you just can't get freed up to use the time.
Just
So
so you
in
get
those
some-
cases, wintertime plowing, Saturdays and Sundays, those employees don't get time off during the week. We don't treat
The
them.
way our manual is, we can take it off, it's not mandatory.
Depends on what day of the week the storm falls on
Right,
too,
right,
you know?
yeah,
Yeah, whether it's a weekend, if it's during a work day, I mean,
yeah. Right,
during the
that's the
work
perfect
day.
time. to put
Yeah.
snow.
Yeah.
We'd like them all to be down, but, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all right, we got a motion and a second to approve as presented on additional public works assistant, full-time.
What, still question time? So what was that number budgeted, 45?
45,
So a third of that would be out of the general?
a third of it sewer and a third of it water.
What's the real burden to the city though? That's just their hourly wage, that's not insurance, that's not all the other stuff.
No, I did figure in insurance and dental in there. I figured a guy at
It is. So, okay,
$15 an hour and,
Yeah, don't ask for that.
Pay of
It's good enough.
15 an hour, I'm with you.
Yep.
All right. I see it now, okay.
Other questions?
so that'd be with benefits.
All right, we'll vote. Brennan?
Yep.
Keel?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yeah.
Glanzer?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Joe?
Just an observation on how, what the real focus of this budget meeting was tonight. There's no hardly anybody left here.
Nobody cares about the city.
Well, I mean, as a city as a city council, it's just an observation that we should make about our community, what they believe.
Craig, before we make any more motions, talk to me about Opal. How bad is it?
It's getting pretty bad.
You could fly across that thing.
Yeah,
It's right
It's
there.
bad.
What?
What, fly across it?
You hit that thing and you're
yeah,
like,
both culverts, we're not sure exactly till we get some elevations, whether the culverts got pushed up in the frost or whether the road settled. I think it's a little bit of both. But then also, if you look at the street itself, the top lift, looks like it got put together without, before we started having our engineers really watching the projects and me watching over that stuff. Something happened on a Saturday, they just came in and did it. Looks like the top lift slid, like it was dirty when it got put together. So it's all, the whole thing, if you look at it, looks like it's just stretched apart. We went, kind of looked it over and thought we'd be able to, when Mitch gave me the price, we were looking at the worst scenario with it. Gonna have to tear it all out, reset box culverts with some footings underneath them, and soil itself with footings underneath. Redo that whole area that's all pulled apart, and then mill back about 30 feet to 60 feet on east and west, and about 150 feet going to the south. And then rebuild that curb line down the north side. That can be a solid curb because that's future street got thrown out. We're not doing that. The developer doesn't want to put that in anymore, so that's getting taken out of there. So that storm sewer inlet would get moved, and I mean, it's complete rebuild in that intersection is what it ended up being.
Well, here's what I'm getting at, Craig. So you got a $180,000 request for that intersection. By my count, there's $186,000 left. And we haven't talked about your dump truck yet. We haven't talked about your mower yet. So, I don't know, maybe some of that could come out of water, maybe some could come out of sewer, I don't know. But if that gets motioned and passes, we're about ready to go home.
Yeah, we're done.
I'm gonna
So-
clarify a few things. on
Hey,
it.
hey,
Some of these things aren't really my wish list. They're just observations that this project's
Yeah,
gonna need
but
to get done.
you're the big
You know?
kahuna sitting at the desk right
Yep.
now. So you tell me what's more important, a dump truck or that intersection?
I know we
Or a
have,
mower or that intersection? You tell me, because you live it every day.
for maintenance wise, the equipment's, more important, but for street wise, I mean, it needs, I don't know if it'll make it another year.
It's hooked up bad, like, I wouldn't wanna be pwned someone.
Yeah, if it makes it through the winter, it'll be lucky. That's what
All right,
that
well, I'm
is.
gonna make a motion of the budget, $180,000, fix the intersection of Hopewell and Rude Lane.
Second.
Rude, is it Rudd or Rude?
100,
Depends on who you talk to.
180.
the whole spiel, huh? What do we got?
There goes the street maintenance assessment. Want some?
According to my
You
calculations,
can't
we don't
use it
have
for
that.
rebuilds.
Are we
We'll
at
have
201?
Can't use it.
What do we have?
We have 186 right now, so after that, we'll have 6,000 left.
So that'll take care of, the money that we'll generate next year. And you do have reserves,
We don't wanna go there.
but
I don't wanna
it
go
depends on
there.
if you wanna dip into them or not.
No, I don't wanna go there. Cause something's gonna pop up next year where we're gonna have to go there.
That's just it, you guys. Took a lot out of reserves this year.
I understand. Big chunk down. Looks like we're gonna have 300,000 miles on that mower coming next year.
Okay, got a motion and a second, right? Any other discussion? Vote? Brenneman?
Yeah.
Monahan?
Yep.
Nelson?
Yep.
Glanzer?
Yes.
And Keel.
Then we have,
Yes.
So on the equipment, just gonna
so shoot me that number again, Karen.
give me,
What do we got?
is there any,
6,000, basically, 6,000.
I don't remember
These
ever getting
options
that.
on
I can remember walking away going, hey, we got left.
Not on the mower, you won't be able to do anything with that. Like I said, the dump truck, I wasn't, looking used, and stuff, so.
You want a dump truck or you want a mower?
Mower.
That's our main mower.
Yeah, we'll say the mower, Gillespie did say, he goes, I'm gonna have a hard time, he'll take ours in on trade, but he says he's gonna have a hard time getting rid of it, because it's got so many hours on it. He said if the city can get rid of them at 1,000 hours or less, he said that in trade value's gonna go way up on them. He said they ain't old, they're just got a lot of hours on them.
Can we split that up between water and sewer?
The mower?
No.
Why?
I'm not sure how you
Doesn't it
justify
mow
to
up
the
by the water
auditors
tower?
that it's for our sewers.
Doesn't it mow down by the
Road
sewer
bridge.
line?
We mowed on the water tower with it. We mowed
It's the
Call Larry.
system. It's the system. You can-
Yeah,
6,000.
6,000.
yeah, but you were projected to have, what, 530 something thousand end of the year?
No,
General?
we've been 1.3 million every year. That's how much we want to have in reserves, is that fine, at minimum,
And there's how much projected? 1 million?
yeah.
1.3.
I gotta make a motion we budget 25,000 for a new mower.
And then take out a reserve.
Take that, Jim.
That'd be the general, yeah.
Yeah.
Who loves you, Terry?
what I miss here? We
What
had
did you
6, now we have 25?
What?
Just wave a magic wand somewhere and I missed, or?
So,
25,000 per.
well, Mark is saying, we've only got 6,000 left between our revenues and expenses. But we do have money in savings, we got
Oh.
$1 million savings, so he's saying take it out of savings, basically, not from what we generate next year.
We're spending every dollar we have.
And then some.
And a
then
little
some,
more.
yes, and now we're dipping into our savings, yeah.
And that's coming out of the $1,360,039. That's where it's coming, the
Yes,
leftover.
yeah.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah.
So we got
You made a motion. Did you get a second?
I haven't heard a second.
I don't think we got a second.
I'll give a second.
We got a second. Yep. All right, more discussion on the 25,000 for a mower.
Do you have any extra money in the budget this year? That you could do more now and not do it in next year?
Not in parks, we don't.
25,000.
No?
It's good discussion. Okay. Anything else? All right, we'll vote. Bonner?
Yep.
Glanzer?
Yes.
Brennan?
Yep.
Nelson?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
So we got that. Okay.
We're gonna.
Because basically what would happen at this point, right? I mean, we're talking about what's left in our savings and what we're comfortable keeping as a floor in our savings. Right now, we're about 1.1, 1.2, 1.3.
Yeah,
We don't
what
go
do you
anywhere
wanna, what do you
below-
wanna spend out of savings now,
We
cause,
don't wanna go anywhere below 500,000. You got a number
Yeah,
of
that
so-
500 that
def-
500,000 is just a fictitious number that was back 20 years ago.
Right.
no, I checked with DLA about 3 years ago,
Yeah.
that's
It's
the
like
standard
our-
recommendation.
Our 3
It's-
months
It's
worth of
3 months
expenses.
operating, I took our expenses out of general
Yep.
and divided by 12 times 3, that's what I come up for 3 months operating expense. Oh,
How close did we get to that number? How close have we ever gotten to that number?
oh, back when I
Wow.
started in
We were-
2006,
we
we
were
were
right at-
really, we were right at,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right at
we've been
that 3
building
months
it.
of operating expense. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In the
11
last
years ago,
5 years, you have not.
We've been at over $1 million, yep,
Okay.
we haven't had to
You've
touch
been
it.
double that most of the time. Because
no,
what
it
would
took
happen?
us, I'm trying, when Teresa took the job, and when I sat down here 10.5 years ago, it was right at about $500,000. When
Yep.
Roland left and Teresa sat down. And it took us just about till 3 years ago to get it to $1 million. It took doing the stuff and holding back.
Right, not
So
digging
that- I
into
think it
that.
took- I think it took, so what would that be? That'd be 9 years?
9 years, yeah.
It took 9 years to grow it $500,000. So we were picking up 50 to 100 a year.
Yeah, because you wouldn't spend quite what you were generating,
Yeah.
and so that extra went into
It
the
just rolled
the
over.
reserves and, yeah, so.
So,
Yeah, I remember when we hit $1 million.
So really, we just took 180 out of our general fund. In reality, we should have taken it out of savings. Because it's a street, it's been there a heck of a lot longer than this year's budget.
well, you
It's all the same.
It's all gonna come
It's all the same money.
It's all the
Yeah.
same
So
money.
while we're sitting here thinking we're done, we're really not done. It's just a matter of reprioritizing where we spend our money.
And we could either, I mean, you can
Just
take a
think
look
how
at the
much
rest
you
of
wanna
these
take out
things that are on
savings,
the
yeah.
list. And you can budget for some of them, or you can not, and they can still come up during the year, we can still spend. It's the same thing.
It's the same
Right,
thing.
right, yeah, like you said, the projects were added this year that weren't in the budget, so I
the
mean.
budget's just a roadmap.
So we can
It's a
scratch
guide.
the move the sign to Aspen property till next year, right?
You could also consider taking that out of third penny as a promotional expense, possibly.
Yeah, I would not recommend third penny though, because
Just
we
kidding.
are going lower and lower in that one.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing our marketing company says we can find ways to make the town look bigger and the entrance start closer to the interchange. This is an easy way to do it.
We have land out there now, right?
We'd have to work on that, yep. The land we've got was,
I can't think of the old road.
It's a ditch.
no, yeah, because that got turned over, the old road got turned over to asphalt. Didn't it? I
No,
thought it
we're
did.
kept it.
Well, I thought that little chunk got turned over to him for trade.
No, because we need for maintenance and we have a trail control on there future, so.
With that of you.
At some
Got
point,
a little
it's just-
side meeting out here, Mr. Mayor.
We put right into that road so they quit turning there.
When I was thinking of the land we just bought on the railroad track.
Oh, the strip of Browers, yeah.
Yeah.
There we do have them.
So is it really cheaper to move it versus getting a new one?
I talked to Zach Ross, he said it wasn't that bad to move, because they moved the one down here by the, hotel. They had to do that
Right,
one
we had to
back.
move
It's
that
on
one.
it's a T. It's on a
Yeah, there's a
plate.
hole in the ground.
There's a hole in the ground with a conduit that comes up. Yeah, so
We
you
just
just
need a better
4 footing,
foundation
Yeah.
for it.
put some anchor
It just-
bolts in it,
Yeah.
move it.
Yeah, we're
This
done
one's
now.
sitting in a bad spot.
Yeah, it's
anyway,
so bad,
as far
it's
as
too wet, it's just,
fixing a little
yeah.
help keeps.
Oh, $6 grand will get you there all day.
Is there
That's if you hire it done.
Would have to
Oh, that's
get
true, you
power
got,
after
you got on
that.
power, that's
That'd
gonna
be
be the most
big.
expensive part of that.
Yeah.
That is expensive.
What about solar?
You could go solar, you have to talk to Jessica and, you know, I mean, there's probably some opportunities there.
Yeah.
Talk to that downtown.
Get some of them 3 watt solar lights on it.
I make a motion, we budget, I make a motion, we take, we budget $6,500, to move that welcome sign.
Second.
That'd be a good
Smart
investment.
employee.
But a lot of folks take pictures of it now and Craig hates it because it's sinking. But it's such a beautiful view of West Central behind it, so it's, you need to get rid of it.
All right, we got a motion and a second.
The news station always do use that sign.
Exactly, they do.
More discussion?
Only one point, there was some discussion that was brought up, if that sign does move, that we could potentially keep a powered pedestal there for the soccer games, so that they have some power to run some stuff. So it might be a way we change who
Owns
the meter gets billed to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's certain.
Another thought too, Travis, you mentioned the idea of maybe putting a marquee there, or a digital marquee at another spot on 38.
West Central?
Well, so the thought here is that it's tough, I know it's a maybe different conversation, but as you're having this conversation, this might be a way to make everybody, utilize that spot, versus buying land somewhere where Aspen was land on 38 across from stomping grounds. This could be a spot where you could put that.
So what you're saying is, the soil isn't stable enough for a sign, but it is for digital billboard.
I guess I
It's
don't
not
know.
stable
what
enough for
soils.
our sign, probably, so, yeah.
That's what I'm saying, the problem isn't the the problem is the location.
Oh, it's just that wet there. See,
Yeah.
I didn't know that was
Sinking.
a
The
The
more.
problem is the
foundation
location.
keeps sinking.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you could, with
Alright.
wider structure, sorry.
It's been crumbling since its inception.
Brennan,
Right.
Yeah.
Keel,
Yes.
Clanzer,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yeah.
Nelson.
Yep.
Make a motion, we approve a 3-wheel groomer for the ball fields.
That's a good idea, that's handy. Second.
What are we using now, Craig?
Right now, we're either using the gate or the four-wheeler, most of the time it's a four-wheeler. But it's,
How's that working?
I mean, it works okay, I mean, it's not,
Super, that's good enough for me.
Yeah. But it tears up the field more,
well,
causes more
Yeah. It's
deterioration.
just moving stuff back and forth all the time.
Where does that, yeah, that's what you
Be nice to have stuff eventually there, so you
mean. It stays there with the
back
field.
and forth, you know.
Mhm.
So,
It's 2,500. Oh, wait a minute, yep, I'm looking at the 2,500 for the small shed, sorry, not the $8,000 for the garage.
Choice 10-5.
Okay. More discussion.
that would stay at the Swenson Sports Complex as I read this
Yep, that's what
description.
I have
So we'd still use the 4-wheeler
in town
in
here,
town.
yeah.
It would just save the running back and
Back and
forth of
forth,
the pieces
yep.
of equipment.
In the shed, well, that's not the motion, so
That's
I'll wait till that is.
Okay, alright, we'll vote. Keel,
Yes.
Monahan,
No.
Brennan,
Yep.
Clanzer,
Yes.
and Nelson.
No.
Okay. Your others?
Move that we budget $6,000 for the plugger for the soccer and the ball fields.
I'll second that just for discussion.
That's more important than the shed at this point?
You just voted no, so we're not getting the 3-wheel groomer.
Does a plugger really cost $6,000?
Used one, yeah.
So our motion failed on the groomer, so we don't need a shed for it.
We don't need a shed for it.
A plugger is just a aerator, right?
Yeah,
What?
but they're,
Shed is
for a
needed.
good used one, that's what they,
Yeah.
that's a used one.
I mean, we've got a shed down here.
Yep.
We'll have one discussion at a
And
time.
that'd be prior to buying one, we'd borrow the schools and just see how well it works out at the sports complex this fall. But if it works well, then we'd
Can you rent a plugger? How often do you plug? Once a year?
you'd do it once in the fall, yeah.
Have we checked into renting a plugger?
I guess I have it now. I could,
We can borrow the schools for free?
for demo, then they're gonna wanna not borrow
Try
it.
it
You
out.
talking southeast or school or?
West Central.
That buys a year.
We've never entertained, like subbing that out, getting quotes to have somebody do it.
I haven't, no.
Alright, other discussion? Alright, we'll vote. Brendan?
No.
Monahan?
No.
Nelson?
No,
Clanzer? And Keel?
No.
Okay.
I see way more use in a field groomer in a shed.
you think you get more use out of the field?
Oh,
field goals? I agree with you. I mean, I was one that used to be out there for church league every time, but I think you gotta have a place to put the thing.
I'm gonna budget, I'd like to see $10,500 budgeted for
There you
a
go.
shed and a groomer.
Second.
That's the one.
There we go. Now we got
Alright,
it.
we got a motion and a second.
Then we can go crazy.
Shed and group.
That makes too much sense.
Any other discussion?
I got a question.
Ooh.
Here's a question. If this motion passes, are there gonna be non-city employees running that groomer?
Good question.
Is there gonna be non-city employees having a key to that
No,
shed?
this would be just maintenance shop.
You're on tape now.
Yep, I know, they've asked to use stuff before, and that's absolutely no, it's, they're not under insurance, they can't use
I
it,
just
so.
wanna hear it out of your
Yep.
mouth.
You go
Yep.
back to me 10 years ago and I used to be able to borrow it?
There'll be somebody
You
drunk
took it away
driving
from
that
me?
thing up and down Western Avenue.
But this is also a way, you know, we charge for the fields, cause it's paying for part-timers to be up there grooming the fields. And
Yep.
they're gonna get it done, and it'll look better, they'll do it quicker,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. It's just better than tape.
Good.
Alright,
Why didn't you do that the first time?
Nelson?
It's gonna get,
Yes.
Clanzer?
Yes.
Keel?
yes.
Brennan?
yep.
And Monahan?
No.
Okay.
The new bleachers at the ball field, that's City Park here, right? Not this
Get
one,
rid of,
City
get rid
Park.
of some of those ones we got down there, and
I'll make a motion to spend $10,000 on new bleachers.
Second.
Discussion.
We don't have anything out there right now?
I
I can't remember.
Yeah, there would.
We
They're
do, but they
they're
would be
pretty rough
replacement.
shape. Yeah, it'd be nice to get some,
Some
you know, we
replacement.
wouldn't throw the other ones out, we'd keep them for like jamboree days or some other events, maybe if they need them out there for an event, you know. But they need to be rebuilt and probably cut the top step or the top bleacher off, cause they're, the height wise on them, so
Yeah.
you're gonna watch them.
Alright, more discussion.
Do they have to be ADA?
I don't think they would have to, because they would be, you're not new, the new ones will be, I mean, you'll have something with them, but the old ones, if you just rebuilt them, you're not.
No, I'm just asking about the new ones that we purchased.
Yeah,
Would it be
we
required?
we definitely wanna have something that could be ADA or, you know, available for it, so. At least one, you know, one set of, shipping's what kills on the bleachers. So, that's why they're so expensive.
Alright, more discussion.
We could send our new employee to pick them up with your new truck.
Monahan?
Yeah.
Brennan?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes.
Clanzer?
Yes.
And Nelson?
Yes. Karen, where are we at? How, are we below a million yet, Teresa?
I stopped counting when you went to savings.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I don't wanna be below a million. I know we're probably not even
I don't think
near
you've
it.
done 300, you haven't done 345,000.
I know that, I know, I just feel like we're getting close, you know? and
Make a
maybe-
motion to buy the used dump truck with plow and sander.
Holy cow.
Do you wanna take that out of all three?
Yeah. as
Between
presented.
like presented.
Yeah.
Second.
Second.
I have a question. Are we actually gonna buy one? Or are we just gonna budget for one? Because the last vehicle we budgeted for, I'm pretty sure you haven't bought it yet.
I haven't yet, you're right, I've been looking, and I have one lined up that would be a pretty decent truck, but it's about 300 miles away, and trying to get time to go up and look at it.
I drove 500 miles on Tuesday to be told the guy wouldn't sell me anything. You're afraid to drive 300 miles to
Try,
save
no,
taxpayer money?
I try to find time when I can go up there.
That's why I need
to one
this
of the
additional
guys.
person,
Yeah.
so you can go buy it.
You're a truck driver for a
I've
living.
been looking within a 300 to 500 mile radius
I
trying to
drive
find.
300 miles to buy ice cream. You won't drive 300 miles to buy a pickup. Good grief, you need to man up.
All right, if that's your question, we got a motion and a second, any other discussion?
Good.
Nope.
No, that's.
Okay, Glanzer,
Yes.
Keel,
Yes.
Brenneman,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yeah.
and Nelson.
God, Monahan, what she has, I got to yes.
Package deal, huh?
Well,
I noticed that.
it's, I mean, it's gotta be good.
Oh, don't you even start talking about that, Travis. Don't you even go down that road.
What do you say?
Don't you even go down that road.
Oh, yeah.
Any other motions?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, oh, yeah.
So 60 off of
So we only dipped into 82,000 into savings.
82.
Do we have an executive session tonight?
Yes.
Is it?
Motion
Do
to
you
move
want-
into executive session.
Second.
I'm just gonna ask about Nicholson sidewalk, but that's all right.
All right, we got a motion, did we get a second?
Was there 43,000 in there this year?
It's gonna be spent though here pretty soon.
Was there a second for executive session?
There was.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
We're gonna spend 70,000 on that sidewalk?
There's a lot of it that's.
Do we have a motion in here?
So move.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?